feel that OTT platforms and producers, filmmakers making films for OTT are more adventurous and they don't mind introducing new actors? We're talking, when I say talent, I mainly mean actors. So they don't mind introducing actors, whereas filmmakers have become a little more reticent. Do you think that is true?
Well, first I just want to say thank you, Mahavir, for organizing this and for getting us onto something which we are very excited about, because in a way, we are all newcomers. And I think that as a newcomer myself, it's nice to be invited onto this platform. But I think I'm going to suggest that this group of people uses a logo, and that logo that I'm going to suggest, coming from advertising, I'll suggest that it is going to be a catapult, a gulel, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to take talent and we're going to catapult it into the galaxy. So that's going to be our logo.
Only an advertising brain could have thought of this.
Now, what was your question?
My question was, why are filmmakers reticent in introducing new talent, whereas OTT platforms are more open to doing so?
I think we are all in the trap of poster-worthy material, right? Everybody wants poster-worthy actor. And we've all been at the receiving end of those comments. And it's a very irritating comment to be at the receiving end of. Because they're all saying, lekin public isko janegi ya nahi janegi. And when Mahavir came to us and said, the first thing I said, to yani poster pe koi bhi aa sakta hai. I don't need to know who this person is. You're actually depending on us as people who are going to, I mean, they always say that they depend on us, but I don't think they depend on us a lot of the time. So for the first time, I'm feeling maybe they should be depending on us. So yes, there is a reticency, not from our end. I think we want to work with all kinds of talent. We basically just want to work. That's basically why we're here. And anybody who gives us work and anything that makes our work work, we are there to do. So,
Mahavir, my question to you, ऐसी क्या चीज हुई कि आपको ऐसे लगा कि I must start this and elicit the support of filmmakers? What led you to this thought process?
Thank you, कोमल भाई जी. मैं सबसे पहले तो ये कहना चाहूँगा कि I'm very happy today because all my favorite filmmakers, all my favorite people whom I look up to, all are sitting here today. So really wanted to thank you, all of you, for bottom of my heart. And thanks to our lovely audience here. जी, actually मैं हिंदी में I'm more comfortable.
जरूर, बिल्कुल, हम हिंदी फिल्में बनाते हैं.
लास्ट कुछ सालों में मैं यहाँ जितने लोग बैठे हैं इन सबसे कई बार मिला और मुझे सबसे खासियत जो लगी कि आप सबके मन में एक बात हमेशा रहती है कि जैसे हम लोग जिस जर्नी से निकले हैं और जहाँ तक पहुँचे हैं, कितने लोग हैं, हर कोई उस जर्नी से निकलना पड़ता है और उस जर्नी को वो सब कंफर्टेबल करना चाहते हैं. दैट आई फेल्ट ऑल द टाइम व्हेन आई मेट ईच वन ऑफ देम. एंड आइडिया वहीं से आया कि यार सबके दिल में है कि हम कुछ और करें, जहाँ इस इंडस्ट्री के जो आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, जो न्यू कमर्स हैं, उनके लिए हम सब कुछ करना चाहते हैं. और ये फीलिंग ने मुझे मोटिवेट किया कि इसके बारे में कुछ सोचना चाहिए. और फिर बहुत सारी चीज़ें, मल्टीपल चीज़ें उससे जुड़ी हुई और कनेक्ट हुई. बट सबसे पहले जो मोटिवेशन मिला वो आप लोगों से ही मिला कि ऐसा कुछ सोचना चाहिए. एंड आई एम थैंकफुल कि एवरीवन केम ऑन बोर्ड फॉर दिस.
सुपर्ब. Superb. Raj and DK, this is for the two of you. Are filmmakers bogged down by the need to have impressive initial collections? In the good old days, initial of a film or the opening weekend's collections were not so important. But today, with saturated and oversaturated releases, we need to show the numbers because it's a game of the first weekend, probably first 2 weekends, and then it's all over, you know. So is it because of that there are lesser filmmakers willing to make films with newcomers?
See, it is a daunting task. You need an opening for your film to work. And nobody is talking about if the film is good or bad. We have come to a situation where is a film hit or not? That's what you ask. How is that film? It's a flop film, it's a hit film. You don't say, I loved it. You watch it. So the metrics had changed long ago. So when we came in, we were outsiders, absolutely zero knowledge about the industry, didn't know who to call for to make a film. So for us, we were naive thinking that we just want to make a good film. So when we first floated our first script called Shore in the City, we thought all new guys. We were going to FTII, we were going to screenings to see these filmmaking students or budding actors and said, how is this guy, how is that guy? We actually picked like that. I still remember saying, how is that person? He looks pretty interesting. So we used to call him for audition. So we had started making a film called Shore in the City with all new faces. We didn't care what was going to happen. So we were naive. That was the problem then. I didn't know how the movie was going to release, who's going to fund it, if it's going to work. We didn't think of anything. But that was a great state to be as filmmakers because you are focusing on the story and how you want to put it together. But then you see the realities. You start seeing who's going to go to the film. Shore in the City, I don't think had a great opening. I don't remember having it. I don't even know about the box office numbers those days. So it is, and then we get into the trappings of having to package a film to put it out there. So this is a necessary evil because Shore in the City doesn't open, or a Go Goa Gone will not open. I mean, because so we also started jumping on. We also leaned on what we like a high concept film. For us, a poster was what represents the story versus the face of the film. So for me, we always made a concept poster for ourselves saying, this is Go Goa Gone. This is Shore in the City. This is Stree. Stree still has only that flying woman. That's it. It wasn't about faces in it. So yeah, I mean, we've been trying to circumvent the star process or the packaging process for a while. It's tough, but it's a tough road versus you have a star who will open it for you and you have a banging script, then you have a great film. When you don't have it, we have to come up with all kinds of ideas like this. So we went the other route. So yeah, that's my...
Which is why Mahavir Jain's idea resonated well with you all?
I mean, to add to what he said and to actually take away from one of the questions you asked earlier, you've noticed that once OTT came, suddenly a lot of actors have appeared on the scene. I mean, people who are known actors but who were not big stars or people who were just unknown suddenly came on the scene, and now you're realizing, oh my God, there are so many good actors in India, right? That's what your takeaway is from watching an OTT show, because the pressure of that opening, that face on a poster has been removed, and you just want to put it out there, give people a chance to watch it, and if they like it, they'll tell somebody else, and it's there for you to watch. But unfortunately, with the theater system, I think my other pet peeve has been forever that we don't have enough theaters in this country. We need more theaters. A film doesn't have that opportunity. It comes, and if it doesn't perform on that first day or the first weekend, boom, it's out. So there has to be a little more of a system for films that don't have marquee value but have word of mouth or a content that's going for it to have a sustained stay. Because there are movies that people might hear about and watch in the second weekend if it is playing in a theater. If it is gone, they don't have that opportunity. So I think it is about time all of us can come up with a system like that. If all of us were to make films with talented newcomers and somehow get the theaters to keep it in theaters, to give it a chance to, get audiences to watch it, I think we would be in a much better situation as an industry.
अनीस भाई और नितेश भाई, आप दोनों से जानना चाहूंगा, do you all believe that content is king?
Yes, sir.
Content is king?
मुझे लगता है कि या कंटेंट इज
I
वेरी
don't think
इंपॉर्टेंट,
anybody will
बिकॉज
disagree.
मुझे लगता है कि एक बहुत अच्छे कंटेंट के साथ अगर आप न्यूकमर के साथ भी फिल्म बना रहे हैं तो उसके ज़्यादा चांसेस है चलने के बनिस्बत कि आपका कंटेंट अच्छा नहीं है और आप किसी स्टार के साथ बना रहे हैं, तो वो भी फिल्म मुझे लगता है उतनी कामयाब नहीं हो पाएगी, क्योंकि कहानी से और जो लिखा हुआ है और जो स्क्रीन प्ले है और जो कंटेंट, उससे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट मुझे लगता है कि कोई भी चीज़ नहीं है। बाकी सारी चीज़ें इम्पोर्टेंट है, अगर उसमें बहुत अच्छे स्टार्स हैं, एक्टर्स हैं और बाकी सब चीज़ें हैं, तो मुझे लगता है वो सारी चीज़ें बहुत ज़रूरी है। लेकिन ये सारी जो ज़रूरी चीज़ें हैं उसके बाद अगर एक जो मेन कंटेंट है अगर वो ठीक नहीं है, तो ये सारी ज़रूरी चीज़ें जो है ये मिलकर भी वो रिजल्ट नहीं ला सकती है जो रिजल्ट आप चाहते हैं।
तो मेरा सवाल, ये तो स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट था, मेरा एक्चुअल सवाल ये है कि जब हम सब मानते हैं कि कंटेंट इज किंग और कंटेंट अच्छा हो तो कुछ भी चल सकता है, ये इंडस्ट्री ऑफ कोर्स बड़े बड़े स्टार्स हैं, सुपरस्टार्स हैं, लेकिन ये इंडस्ट्री कहीं ना कहीं बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस स्टार्स को वनस्पत के कंटेंट को क्या नहीं दे रही है?
I'll tell you one thing, sir. This is my reading. After some time, I personally stop looking at stars as stars. I start evaluating them as performers, and that is the criteria for me to cast or approach anyone for any subject which I am working on. So to me, something like that is very important. And I am someone who started my first film was 10 बच्चे थे और एक कुत्ता था. So it's like so to me, I think it's always I never create content keeping any star cast in mind. It's only after it's been written, is when the faces come into place.
फिर भी फिल्म मेकर्स का दायरा हो जाता है कि ये एस्टैब्लिश स्टार्स हैं, न्यू कमर्स, मेरा ये कहने का मतलब है कि न्यू कमर्स को के बारे में बहुत लोग नहीं सोचते हैं। व्हाट इज द रीजन?
कोमल जी, मुझे लगता है पर्सनली कि पहले ऐसा भी होता था कि कुछ एक फिल्में जो है जिनको लोगों ने उतना पसंद नहीं किया, शायद इसलिए कि उतनी समझ में उनके इनिशियली पहले एक वीक में 2 वीक में नहीं आई। फॉर एग्जांपल ऐसे लॉर्ड फिल्म जैसे शोले जो है वो इनिशियली लोगों को समझ में नहीं आई थी, मुगल आजम, क्योंकि वो उसमें इतनी उर्दू लग रही थी उनको, तो बिगिनिंग के 1-2 वीक नहीं चली और उसके बाद वो फिल्मों ने हिस्ट्री क्रिएट की। आज वो ज़माना आ गया है कि अगर पहले वीक में फिल्म नहीं चली तो वो जो शोले एंड मुगल आज़म वाला जो तारीख़ है वो आदमी दोहरा नहीं सकता है, वो फिर माना जाएगा कि फिल्म फ्लॉप हो चुकी है। एंड इसीलिए मुझे लगता है कि स्टार्स के साथ भी ये है कि देखिए, अगर आप जैसे कह रहे कंटेंट अगर इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं होता, तो मैंने आज तक ऐसी कोई कहानी ऐसा कुछ नहीं सुना है कि एक्टर ने ये कहा हो या स्टार ने कि भाई चलो मैं हूँ, मुझे कहानी नहीं सुननी है। वो हमेशा ये कहते हैं कि भाई मैं हूँ, बराबर है, स्टोरी क्या है आपकी, तो वो बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है। और जितनी फैसिलिटीज़ के साथ, जितने बजट के साथ एक स्टार के साथ फिल्म बनाई जा सकती है, उतने ही बजट के साथ एक अच्छे कंटेंट के साथ भी न्यूकमर के साथ नहीं बनाई जा सकती। लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि न्यूकमर नहीं आते हैं, बहुत टैलेंटेड लोग हैं जो आए हैं, आते रहेंगे। और आज जो ये सारे लोग जमा हुए हैं, इनका सबका यही मानना है कि हर इंसान जो आज बहुत बड़ा स्टार है वो किसी ज़माने में बिल्कुल नया ही था। लेकिन आप एक अच्छे एक्टर को लेके आ सकते हैं और काम करा सकते हैं, बट उसे स्टार बनाना शायद आपके हाथ में नहीं है, ये ऑडियंस के हाथ में है। और स्टार जो है वो धीरे धीरे लोगों का प्यार बनता है और काफ़ी वक्त के बाद एक एक्टर जो है वो स्टार बन पाता है।
इम्तियाज भाई, टेलीविजन ने हमें दिखाया है कि छोटी छोटी जगहों पर, स्मॉलर टाउन्स, विलेजेस ऑल्सो, टैलेंट भरपूर है। इंडिया में टैलेंट की कोई कमी नहीं है। फिल्म इंडस्ट्री अनफॉर्चुनेटली छोटी जगहों पर टैलेंट ढूंढने नहीं निकलती है। तो व्हाट इज द रीजन एंड डज दिस आउटफिट इंटेंड रीचिंग आउट टू स्मॉलर प्लेसेस ऑल्सो?
See, all the people that are present over here have come with the firm belief that this idea of Mahavir is a great opportunity for each one of us. बिकॉज हम वो लोग हैं कि हम कहानी लिख के आते हैं बाजार पर, मार्केट के पास, और मार्केट बोलता है, द मार्केट गिव्स सम अरिथमेटिक टू से व्हाई द फिल्म कांट बी मेड. हम तो वो लोग हैं. लाइक वी started off, all of us are here because we wanted to tell stories, and making a movie is perhaps the most expensive form of contemporary art. तो हम तो कहानी लिख के आते हैं और फिर वहाँ वो लोग कहते हैं बाजार वाले कि नहीं बन सकती जी, इसमें ये अरिथमेटिक रॉन्ग है, इसमें फलाना है, इसमें ओपनिंग नहीं लगेगी, इसमें 3rd वीक 4th वीक. हम वो लोग नहीं हैं. वी आर बिलीवर्स. वी आर वेरी हैप्पी विद दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी. We are very happy to go and work with people who are not known to the audience, as long as the very important part of the money, the market arithmetic also takes place. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि शायद हम लोग उसके स्पेशलिस्ट ना हो. हम तो यही चाहेंगे जिस तरह का ये इनिशिएटिव है और भी ऐसे इनिशिएटिव्स हों, कोई रास्ता देखा जाए कि किस तरह से वो फिल्में बन सके जिनके लिए स्टार्स की मतलब मौजूदगी लाजमी नहीं है. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि उनके बगैर नहीं बन सकती ऐसी वाली फिल्म. एंड बट गुड सिनेमा ऑलवेज वर्क्स. इट्स ओनली द गुड सिनेमा एंड गुड स्टोरीज एंड एज अनीस भाई सेड, ग्रेट स्क्रिप्ट्स वर्क. सो रियली लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू हाउ दिस मोनेटाइजेस. वी आर विद दिस एफर्ट. इसके फाइनली जो दाव पेच होने वाले हैं, जो उस तरफ होने वाले हैं, जो मार्केट की तरफ होने वाले हैं, वो क्या होंगे वो जाने. बट आई विश दैट देर इज सम ट्रिक, देर इज सम मैजिक दैट वर्क्स, एंड वी आर गोइंग टू गिव आवर फुल एंड बेस्ट एफर्ट.
एंड कोमल जी,
Sure.
I think what Imtiaz is saying is that we have two audiences. One is the audience, which by the time we get to that audience, that's the second audience. हमारा जो first audience जो है is the audience that is going to give us money, which is not the theatrical audience, but it's the financier and the producer. So what are they giving us money on? And I think what we are now today discussing is that they're giving us money not on those paradigms, earlier paradigms. They're giving us money on the content, and my first audience therefore is the people that I don't have to overcome. My first audience has already believed in me. So that's one of the nice things about Mahavir and Gio. Together they have said, listen, we are your first audience, don't worry. आप first audience का फिक्र मत कीजिए, second audience का फिक्र कीजिए.
Sir, to add to this, I was coming to that only कि यहाँ पे कुछ chairs कम हैं जो producers की होनी चाहिए थी. जो I think we need gutsy producers. हम directors हैं, हम filmmakers हैं. Producers का आगे conviction है, and this is the step towards that, where Geo is involved, where of course we have filmmakers who are producers also, but I'm talking about dedicated producers. I myself have gone through that process. जब मैंने I made my first film, मैंने फुकरे बनाई. So I had my producers' conviction and backing on the script. They had access to all the stars possible, but they kind of believed that, okay, you want to make it with newcomers, we'll put in that effort. क्योंकि क्या होता है, प्रोड्यूसर के लिए easy होता है चेहरे बेचना आगे भी. नए चेहरे, नया डायरेक्टर, नई एक अतरंगी सी स्क्रिप्ट, वो बेचना मुश्किल हो जाता है. So that's another easy route. No, I won't say easy, but a safe route that a lot of producers would want to follow. But I think producers also need that conviction कि हाँ ये स्क्रिप्ट है, हमें पसंद आई है. जैसे अभी सर बोल रहे हैं, like this is how we need to see it. And जो मैथ्स की बात हो रही है या जो बाजार की बात हो रही है, वो आगे वो वॉल टूटे, and if they are on the same page, then I think it will be very easy for films to get made.
You know, this is the ideal situation, but let us not fool ourselves into believing this. आजकल जो corporates आ गए हैं, I know this is a common complaint कि corporates के पास scripts लेके जाएं, वो बोलते star कौन है? They are not interested in listening to the story also. If the star is there, their interpretation is star on board है ना, star ने story सुन ली होगी, we don't have to break our heads. It's probably because they're not equipped to assessing scripts. It's a sad reality, and that is how most of the corporates are functioning. But having said that, Abhishek and Mrig. Abhishek, like Mrig, even your first film, Tere Bin Laden, did not boast of star names, you know. Now, how difficult, of course, you all were not the producers, but you would have a fair idea. How difficult was it for you to get showcasing in the cinemas? I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. आपने न्यू टैलेंट को इंट्रोड्यूस कर लिया, बट साइमल्टेनियसली आपको सिनेमास की भी थिंकिंग को बदलना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो आपकी फिल्में तैयार है, exhibitors, multiplexes, the bigger chains are just not willing to screen those films. Every film needs a fair chance. उसके बाद जनता जनार्दन आपके फिल्म को पास करे या ना पास करे वो उनके हाथ में है. लेकिन a fair chance has to be dealt. So I would like to know from your experiences of your first films, was it difficult or was it smooth sailing because people backing you all were big?
वो दौर और था, ये दौर कुछ और है. I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, that time we didn't have OTT. I think most probably if OTT was there, Tere Bin Laden would have come on OTT. You know, because I'll tell you, very few people know this, that many industry insiders, my producers, Pooja and Aarti Shetty, and Mr. Manmohan Shetty's daughters, they were very supportive of the film, and we all knew, and you know, they have access to all the stars. Like Mrik just told us about Fukre also. They had access to all the stars, but I was very clear that, you know, if I'm selling a film which is set in Pakistan, which is about a fake Bin Laden, now Bin Laden can't be a known face, you know, you just lose the whole perspective on the character. So they supported that idea. The film had no song and dance. It was set in Pakistan. And it was a comedy which was a slightly maybe ahead of its time kind of a comedy, you know, because it was satire majorly. And a lot of insiders, distributors, told Pooja and Aarti that you should not release this film. You know, just save yourself some embarrassment. And today I am most proud about that film, you know, because they supported it. Of course, we were heartbroken. You know the inside story. I called you the first day of Tere Bin Laden and I asked you. It was a bit of a shocker. I think we opened with 15%. Next day we jumped to 50 and the Sunday was house full. Yes. So even at that time content worked and I think theatres supported it. Like I'll tell you sir, recently also from a trade perspective, because I come from the corporate background, 4 years in ad labs, even today and even at that time, you will see there are films like Vicky Donor, there are films like now Karthike 2, we saw that. That initially you might not have showcasing, but it has always been there that, you know, if the film picks up, look at Kashmir Files, look at Jai Santoshi Ma at that time. It's always been there. So your question and what Anis bhai just said, content is king and it will rule, irrespective of the face. Irrespective of the face. So I don't think that this congregation is against star system. This congregation is pro content, and also it's not just about creating new stars. It's about having the freedom to create more stories and not waiting like we waited years back in Fukre maybe and in Tere Bin Laden. Maybe the next guy who comes in, the next Abhishek Sharma or next Mrig, comes up with a kick-ass story and he gets more, you know, money to make it so that people don't say the only negative in Tere Bin Laden is the production value is low. So I think that's where we are, because storytelling is also production values. It's also about taking in, you know, getting into an experience. So I think that's what we are all here for. That's what Mahavir Ji's initiative has attracted us.
Yes,
you know,
actually,
because of.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it in perspective. I'm sure everybody sitting on the dais is agreeing to this point that content is king, and it is pro content. It is not anti stars or anti anything. Stars, of course, सोने पे सोना अगर content है तो stars सोने पे सुहागा है. You know, कहीं कभी हम भटक जाते हैं, ये सोच लेते हैं कि stars सोना है और content important नहीं है. That is the dangerous part. You know, I want your perspective also, because you made a Badhaio which was a blockbuster and it had no names. So how was the release position then?
So काफी funny story है ये. बधाइयों भी काफी funny film थी.
आपकी film भी funny थी.
हाँ. So when we made the film was supposed to release in 800 cinema halls. So at that time I did not know how many number of cinema halls film generally goes into, because, and also I was part producer also of the film. So I actually did not know. And then uh, distributor came to my office and he saw the film. And he said, Anil Thadani, and उनसे मैं पहली दफ़ा मिल रहा था, फ़ोन पे बात हुई साथ. तो he said, I love the film. I think I'm going to release this film in 1200 theaters. So I said, so पहले क्या था, plan क्या था? He said 800. I said, why? So he said, हाँ, छोटी फिल्म है तो हम उसको इतने ही सिनेमा हॉल में रिलीज करते हैं. So I said, okay. And then the trailer came out, and I think that went viral. So Anil sir called and he said, I think I'll release this film. I would suggest 1800 cinema halls. And finally it released in 2200 cinema halls. So I think it's because of the content. We had Ayushman, and really thanks to him, he did this film. When he heard the script, he said, this is not my film, but I'm doing this because I love the script.
Wow.
And actual hero heroine to Gajraj ji or Neena ji hain iske. So, and I agree with him that actually actor hero heroine वही दोनों थे. And I think they only pulled off the whole thing, and people loved their performances so much that Neena ji and Gajraj ji is today the most busy actors in the industry. So yeah, so that's the thing, and some learning from there that content, yes, is the king.
You know, Raj and DK, I'm sure you all have also made films of all kinds and with lesser budgets, controlled budgets, with not so saleable names. You all would be having some anecdotes to narrate.
Yeah, it's always the unavailability of stars. I mean, every single film, till 3, was stalled in between. Like we would shoot an entire half of Go Goa Gone, and then we'll wait for 8 months for dates. We would shoot another. Every film had a story like this. No film was done in a schedule because we were nobodies. There was no somebody calling and saying dates do inko, or like there was nobody behind us. So it was always every making of our film is a great story in itself, because the amount of obstacles we had to do as outsiders, and because we were picking stories that were off, that were not your mainstream easy sells. So, and we were always somehow gravitated towards these actors versus stars in a way. And that's why the initiative, when Mr. Mahavir and proposed to us, along with Gio, the detailing of their plan is what I had a lot of questions for it. Okay, so if I put it out, sure, I'll take this really good actor, put it out there. I've been through this shit, this movie won't open. What will happen? It won't, and nobody's going to give us screens, but there is a studio behind it saying, hey, you know what, we're going to push him, give him like 2 films. We're going to sign him up for 3 projects at a time. So he's not just it's like cricket match. Usually for me, all the analogies go back to cricket. OTT is test cricket, and theatre is T20. So for this also, you don't drop a player after the first match if he's not playing. You took him because of certain talent. So I like the idea of having this person for a series. So all this detailing was what was intricately thought through. Hence I felt it was a brilliant initiative with a lot of thought behind it. Anyway, my point is that the reason I'm saying all this is this: we went through each time from Go Go Gone or even any other film, but we went back to in Stree after trying stars out in our earlier films. We went back to a like an actor system, because we believe that irrespective of budget, especially if you control the budget, you will succeed. And like you're saying, Sonepe Suhagan, the idea of hitting a sixer or a blockbuster without actors like Badai Ho or any of our films, including Stree, is another high. It's purely filmmaking effort.
It's like the tailender hitting a 6. It's like the tailender hitting a 6.
The last guy,
and winning the match. Yeah, sorry. One thing, obviously we've all been talking about our first films and how we did it with newcomers and saw varying degrees of success. But I think the good idea here for all of us on this table is none of us are now newcomers, right? I mean, Amit and Mrigan, all of you guys, you were struggling then, but now you're known names, you're established names, and people like the people on this stage backing a newcomer is what is going to lend weight to that whole idea. It's not newcomers making films with newcomers, it's established people and established studio and established producer making films with newcomers, which is a great new, it's a new ball game. Nobody has ever tried this on a sustained scale before. Once in a while, big studios have launched a newcomer here and there. But this as a plan, I think that is the genius of this idea.
It is, indeed it is. With all your support, all the top directors, top producers, top filmmakers of the country, with their support, इस idea को opening तो मिल चुकी है. जिसे हम कहते हैं ना, फिल्म को opening मिलनी चाहिए. इस newcomers वाली idea को opening तो fantastic मिल गई है. अब जैसे public को पसंद आनी चाहिए फिल्म, नितेश जी, इम्तियाज भाई, राम, in fact anyone, all of you can answer this. How do you all plan to take this idea forward? At the idea level, it is fantastic. कुछ thought process गया है या अभी तक you all have not come to that stage? I know it's very early days, but even in case, you know, because कभी idea excite करती है, तो you start thinking, you know, we can do this, we can do that. If you all can share those ideas.
No, sir, idea I think is at a very nascent stage
I
this
agree.
point of time. You know, once we all sit and you know, decide a plan of action, then only I think it will formulate. But the intentions are very noble, like everybody here is echoing. You know, there was a time, you know, when somebody believed in us. You know, it's payback time.
It's
you know?
payback time. Yes, it is.
I think somewhere we'll have to work very smartly on this. You know, you have to be very practical about it. You know, if the economics of theaters don't work out, there is a huge audience which is waiting to lap up talent on the OTT also, and there are ample proofs of that. So, you know, so theater is not the only medium of expression. We are storytellers. How does it matter whether people come to theater to watch our stories or people come to people watch it at the comfort of their homes? You know, so I think also the idea is not just to launch. You know, I mean, I think everyone will agree. Idea is not just to launch fresh faces. Idea is to support fresh talent irrespective of what is their level of expertise. You know, it can be actors, can be directors, can be writers, can be musicians, can be anyone, you know. So idea is to just do that, you know. So that's what I would say, sir. You know, we have to be practical about it, and we have to be very open about it. And I think we have to remain gung-ho about it for a long period of time for it to actually materialize.
Phenomenal. Ram wants to say something.
I think we'll know in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, is this history in the making or was this not history in the making? And we are hoping that 5 and 10 years' time from now, people will speak about what happened today.
I would like to believe that it is indeed history in the making, and I'm glad that I'm moderating the session where history has just begun to be written. Anybody wants to say anything before I ask the audience to? I'm sure they have a lot of questions. So,
कोमल जी, मेरा ऐसा मानना है, मैं बहुत ही ऑप्टिमिस्टिक इंसान हूँ. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जैसा महावीर भाई ने बताया कि बहुत ही कम वक्त लगा ये सारे लोगों को जुड़ने में. मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि फिल्म लाइन जो है, हमारी जो इंडस्ट्री, वो हमेशा कोई भी बेहतरीन चीज़ हो उसके लिए हमेशा हमेशा आगे रही है.
बिल्कुल सही.
आप जो भी चीज़ में देख लीजिए, हमेशा फिल्म लाइन की. तो आज जितने लोग हैं उनको इनको मिलने में और जितना टाइम, मैं तो शायद पहली मरतबा कल मिला हूँ और 2 मिनट के बाद मैंने कहा ये बहुत अच्छा है. इसलिए कि हम लोग जो हैं, मुझे लगता है यहाँ सारे जो लोग मौजूद हैं, ये सारे लोग जो है बहुत दुश्वार रास्तों से गुज़र के, बहुत कठिन रास्तों से गुजर के यहाँ तक आए हैं. और ये सारे लोगों का हमारा मानना है कि जितनी कठिनाइयाँ, जितनी मुश्किलें हमें आई है, अगर उनको हम थोड़ा आसान कर सके तो वाई नॉट. लेकिन मुझे लगता है, जैसे आपने एक पहले सवाल पूछा था, उसका जवाब मैं देना चाहता हूँ कि हम लोग बहुत मुश्किल से यहाँ आए, तो अब हमारे लिए वो एक कि हम कहीं जा रहे हैं और टैलेंट ढूंढना, दैट विल बी वेरी वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट. तो वैसे भी कहते हैं कि अगर प्यास लगी है तो घोड़े को जो है तालाब तक आना होगा. तालाब जो है वहाँ नहीं जाएगा। तो हम यहाँ है सबकी मदद करने, और ये बहुत अच्छा काम है ये आगे करने, लेकिन नेचुरली ये एक सबको मिलके ही काम करना होगा।
बिल्कुल, और घोड़ा तो तालाब तक पहुंच जाएगा, तालाब खुला है सबके लिए, वही बहुत बड़ी
That is
बात
important.
है, वही बहुत बड़ी बात है। Thank you so much. I'm sure you'll have some questions, so the house is open. Please introduce yourselves before asking the question. And
Komal?
Yeah.
Hello. Hello, Komal.
Hello.
This is Siraj Syed from filmfestivals.com. I'm here. I'm here.
Yes, I can see you. I can see you.
The question is, a director would take great pride in introducing somebody who becomes a star. So I'd like to know the views of the panel here about characters or actors that they have introduced, and do they subscribe to the idea of working with absolute newcomers and giving them credit as introducing so and so?
So I take a lot of pride in introducing everybody who's been a part of my film, whether it's a technician or whether it's an actor or whether it's anybody else, you know, just for the sake of making it sound familiar to the people. You know, if I start naming technicians, then it becomes odd. But you know, I'm not getting into Chiller Party because it was a kids film, you know, and they. But if you look at Dangal, you know, apart from Amir sir, everybody else out there was almost fresh in the film. You know, you look at Fatima, or look at Sania, or look at Apar Shakti, or Zaira, or Suhani, or for that matter, many other people, you know. And trust me, it gives me great pride when I see them do well in life. You know, so there is no better feeling. You know, it's almost like आप बोलते हो ये अपने बच्चे हैं. You know, it's all, you almost become parent to them. You know, and who better to take pride than parent in their kids' success. You know, so that's all I can say. Yeah.
Hello. A very good evening to all the gentlemen on the dais. My name is Rohan. I'm a student of film myself. To begin with, we have a running joke in school, which is जिंदगी इम्तियाज अली के कैरेक्टर्स जैसी हो गई है, बस क्लैरिटी ढूंढ रहे हैं, लाइफ में कुछ मिल नहीं रही है. So my question is to everyone on the panel, which is, you know, it becomes very important for filmmakers, especially for directors, to create a brand for themselves solely for the reason that they stand out from the other directors. Do you let that come to you very organically? कि यार ये मेरा स्टाइल है फिल्म मेकिंग का. डू यू इक्वेट इट टू यार मुझे एक्शन फिल्में देखना पसंद है, सो मे बी मैं वैसी बनाऊंगा, या फिर मुझे स्लैपस्टिक कॉमेडी पसंद है तो मैं वैसी बनाऊंगा. डू यू लेट दैट कम टू यू ऑर्गेनिकली, और शुड देयर बी, इफ एट ऑल, बी एन ऑनेस्ट परस्यूट फॉर कि यार मेरा स्टाइल ऑफ फिल्म मेकिंग क्या है, व्हाट इज माय ब्रांड ऑफ फिल्म मेकिंग?
Imtiaz has some clarity on this.
बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने मुझे बदनाम किया सरेआम. The confusion in my characters comes completely autobiographically. सबका तो मैं नहीं कह सकता, बट बहुत सारे फिल्म डायरेक्टर्स का, people like myself or writers का, I don't think it's a choice that you want to be a certain type of director. And talking to young people, I realized that they are setting direction, storytelling into categories. I think it's more instinctive than that. You have a compulsive need to make a certain story. You know, you don't put that into any equation. You want to make this film. You want to make it. You want to convince people. You want to say anything that works to the people who have the money to let you make it. Right? After you make many such films, it's other people who start telling you that you're this kind of or that kind of filmmaker. So young people like yourself shouldn't worry about classifications. It's the last thing you want to worry about. You should just find out what is in your mind, in your heart, what you think is something that you have to tell, otherwise you'll die. And just go ahead and make it. Find the means to do that.
Thank you, sir.
मैं कुछ कहना चाहता हूँ. मुझे लगता है कि जो यंगस्टर्स हैं उनको वही बनाना चाहिए जो उनके दिल में है, जो उन्हें अच्छा लगता है, और लोगों की बिल्कुल नहीं सुननी चाहिए कि लोग क्या कह रहे हैं. आपको जो अच्छा लगता है, फॉर एग्जांपल मैंने एक पहली फिल्म बनाई थी, प्यार तो होना ही था, इट वाज अ लव स्टोरी. उसके बाद बहुत सारे लोगों ने मुझे कहा कि आपको लव स्टोरी ही बनानी चाहिए, इसलिए कि हमें लगता है कि आप यही अच्छा बना सकते हैं. तो मैंने उसके बाद एक फिल्म, चूँकि मुझे बनानी थी सस्पेंस थ्रिलर, तो मैंने बनाई थी दीवानगी. फिर ये कहा कि नहीं ये बहुत अच्छा जॉनर है, यही आप कीजिए. फिर मैंने बनाया नो एंट्री कॉमेडी. तो मेरा ये मानना है, मेरा पर्सनली ये मानना है कि लोगों का काम है कहना, कुछ भी कहेंगे तो उनका मत सुनिए. आपका जिस वक्त जो दिल कह रहा है वो अगर आप करेंगे. उसके बाद मुझे लगा कि यार मुझे कॉमेडी बनाने में बहुत अच्छा लगता है, तो मैं कॉमेडी भी बना रहा हूँ. अगर कुछ और सब्जेक्ट अच्छा लगेगा मैं वो बनाऊंगा. आपको जो अच्छा लगता है वो आप बनाइए.
वो जो कहानी है जो आपको अगर अच्छी लगी बनाने के लिए, वो बनाइए. आप ये मत सोचिए कि ये मेरा जॉनर है कि नहीं है. अगर वो अच्छी लगी कहानी तो बस उसको बना डालिए. अगर आप एक्साइटेड हैं तो आप लोगों को एक्साइट कर पाएंगे.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rachna. I work with Bombay Times. I have a question for all the filmmakers on the dais here. So, mentor करना बहुत difficult काम होता है. उसके लिए भी जो mentor कर रहा है और उसके लिए भी जो mentorship ले रहा है आपसे. The reason being it's difficult is that आपकी identity आपकी है, but वो rub off होने लगती है उस पे जिसको आप mentor कर रहे हो. How do you plan to navigate that space as mentors, where you keep your identity but you help somebody else find an identity of their own?
You know,
it's a tough.
After he's done, then I want to answer that also. So no, please go ahead.
It's a tough balance for sure. See, we have like produced this little film called Cinema Bandi. We produced Stree, and now we are producing a series called Gulkanda Tales. All of them very individualistic directors, and we are not producers. We turn producers out of necessity, because I knew nobody was going to produce our film, so we had to put in our own money and friends' money to start our filmmaking things. So we thought we should be the producer we never had to start with. You know, somebody. So let me back that filmmaker's vision. In India, especially in India, at least in India, if the story comes from the filmmaker, there is already his identity in it, and I'm trying to identify with that. Right there, he or she has a stamp on it already. So I really believe more on those writer-directors, at least for now, as a producer, to see if they come up with their story. They have it, it's in them. And now I'm having to lend. We are not typical money guys who put money in. We are creative producers. So the idea is now I'll help you with our experience how to make this better and how to get it out as much as possible. So.
Yeah, we had this initiative, we still have it, an initiative called D2R Indie, which we had started a couple of years back, where through which we made this film called Cinema Bandi. The idea was not to get somebody to make the kind of film we want to make, but to let them make the kind of film they make, but give them that basic support and maybe transfer of a little bit of knowledge that we never had. Like on our first film, every little challenge that we had to face, we had to solve ourselves or figure out or make mistakes. But you know, once in a while you hope if there was somebody who knows how to handle something like this, or this happens in movies. You have a bad day directing a film. If somebody were to come and tell you that's okay, it happens to all directors, that'll be great to hear. Or you'll be thinking, I must be a shit director, right? So the idea is to support them achieve their vision. Typically, that's what mentorship should be, to help them solve their problems, not try to turn them into what you are.
Well, hello. I don't know whether we're here as mentors. I think we're here to support talent and anybody who's, whatever that people that we've been growing, whether it's with Arya or with other things that we've been doing, other directors, other actors. The thing that I get very scared about is being a mentor. So I keep telling everybody in everybody who's there in my team, I am not your mentor, you are mine. So let's get the hierarchy completely straight over here. The people who are working with us, I'm learning from. And if they learn something from me, that's a bonus. But if I learn something from them, that's great.
Ratna, just to sum it up, it's all about sharing the wisdom. Need not be, hand-holding to certain extent, but they start becoming you. It's not that. Basically, what Raj and TK said is bang on. It's just about allowing them to learn from whatever little wisdom we may have, and also to learn from our mistakes, so that they don't make the same mistakes. That's what.
What can be the concrete, here, sir, on the left, right? So what can be the concrete idea, plan or strategy for you filmmakers to break the myth that corporates demand stars?
No, I didn't. Have you understood the question? We didn't understand the question.
No, I think corporate is backing the idea as well, with Geo out here, which is a very good step. I think I just want to give it a perspective that we are in a resource crisis out here. Let's not forget that there's so many stories to tell, and we don't have enough resources, whether it is about actors, directors, technicians, writers. So I'm saying let's get our mind clear on one thing. This is not just a mentorship program. We are not sitting in a AFI, American Film Institute, and boasting about our laurels and that, we will make people. No, we want to make stories. This is a resource crisis. This is going to be an existential crisis if we don't wake up right now. This is what is happening right now. When you say history getting created, if this works out, we'll be out of this existential crisis. I think let's wake up and smell the coffee. I think that's what is happening with this initiative. There is a corporate attached, by the way. The biggest corporate in India is attached. Mahavir ji is attached. We are all coming together, not just out of excitement, but also because somewhere deep down we know that there is panic, Komal ji, in the industry about creating stories, So this is a wake-up call, and that's how I see it.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Here on your right. Here. Good evening, sir. Chirag Kapoor here from Pearl Academy, Mumbai. And first of all, a round of applause for this panel. It can never get better than this, such creative artists here. So I want to ask you a question that's two-faced. One from a filmmaker's point of view. I'm sure there's a lot of youth sitting over here, just as myself, who's foraying into the field of filmmaking and acting. So as all of you said earlier on, when you were newcomers into the industry and you had certain scripts and you needed support. So what was your go-to deed to convince someone that yes, this will work? And how can a new upcoming technician or an actor come and convince, would be looking like their convincing point to you that yes, even though I am new, this will work? And did you face that in your earlier stages? So it's from a director's point of view, obviously making, and from a technician who wants to be a part of your films.
I think don't try to convince anyone. If you are convinced yourself and you know, okay, you have something very great, आप जिस तरह नरेट करेंगे, जिस तरह सुनाएंगे, वो आपके जो दिल से बात निकलेगी, वो सामने जो है दिल तक पहुंचेगी, आपको कन्विंस कराने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. ये तो ये जितने लोगों ने भी सफ़र शुरू किया है, इनको ये सारी जो चीज़ें आप लोगों की शायद आगे आएगी, ये आ चुकी है. एंड ये सारे लोग आज जिस जगह भी पहुँचे हैं, इनमें एक बहुत कन्विक्शन था, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, बहुत हार्डवर्क किया है और बहुत फोकस रहे हैं. तो ये 3, 4, 5 चीज़ें हैं, अगर किसी के साथ हो तो ऐसा हो नहीं सकता कि वो उसकी तरक्की नहीं हो.
Thank you, sir.
I'll add one thing to that. मैं कन्विंस नहीं कर पाया था किसी को भी जो मैं पहली पिक्चर बनाना चाहता था. मैं कर ही नहीं पाया. वो आज तक वो स्क्रिप्ट वहीं की वहीं पड़ी हुई है. वो मैं कर ही नहीं पाया. फिर एक दिन ऐसा आया कि मुझे सामने से फ़ोन आया और बोला गया कि अच्छा सुनो, ये फिल्म बनाओ तुम. तो मैंने बोला मुझे फिल्म बनानी है, लेकिन क्या बनानी है? तो मुझे बोला कि ये एक ऐसी फिल्म बनानी है तुम्हारे को। तो मैंने फट से हाँ बोल दिया, बिकॉज मेरे को फिल्म बनानी थी। वो फिल्म थी तेवर, जो किसी ने देखी नहीं, तो वो चली नहीं। लेकिन वो बनाने के बाद में मुझे रियलाइज हुआ कि यार मुझे पिक्चर क्यों बनानी है। पिक्चर इसलिए बनानी है क्योंकि बनाना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि या उस पिक्चर मजे से बनानी है। मतलब वो तेवर बनाते हुए मजा आता है, लेकिन एक सेटिस्फैक्शन जिसको बोलते हैं। तो मैंने 3 साल वेट किया और फिर ये बधाइयों की स्क्रिप्ट लिखी। बीच में काफी सारे ऑफर्स आए, बड़े एक्टर्स के साथ भी ऑफर्स आ रहे थे, बट आई वेटेड। वो स्क्रिप्ट लिखी, उसके बाद में सब लोग कन्विंस हो गए।
देखिए, अमित ने आपको आपके सवाल का जवाब दे दिया कि वो कोई कन्विंस नहीं कर पाए थे, इसलिए कि समथिंग बेटर उनके लिए होना था। तो बहुत ज़्यादा कन्विंस मत कीजिए। अगर लोग कन्विंस नहीं हो रहे तो आप ये हो जाए कि हाँ, ये उतना ठीक नहीं है, और जो आगे आएगा दैट विल बी मच बेटर।
See, this is a very heartfelt question for us because we all came the hard way. There are theories people tell you, right? You know, that have conviction, that one story, you fight for it, it will get made. For me, it was bullshit because it didn't work out. So, we wrote 3 stories. We decided, let me approach this more practically. I'll write 3 different stories that we like. We had 99, we had Shore in the City, we had Go on 3 stories.
Or make up a 4th story if that's what looks like it's going to be the idea. Make up one on the spot.
What I'm trying to say is, quick answer is, I always thought that out of the box ideas that will make the producer, studio, actors get convinced about your idea. So we made a trailer when we didn't even have a film. We had to make with our own audio, visual, whatever stuff to show. And they were like, wow, I see something. Because nobody reads scripts. Nobody's going to read your script. And we were not good narrators then. So we always thought, we made a comic book once, out of nowhere. We don't know how to make comic books. So each time there was certain tool we got them excited with. So that's necessary for filmmakers, because there will be so many stories to approach, but something that has to stand out. A little out of the box idea that excites someone is a great idea to pitch a film.
And there's one little anecdote that I don't think we ever said this before, and because I think even we forgot about it. Even when we went and pitched, when we met with Amazon, the 2 people that were working for Amazon at that time, we had 2 concepts that we told them. And Family Man was the one that got picked, but we had 2 concepts to tell them. So I think the trick is to go with a handful of ideas rather than just one idea.
It's, I'll just sum up what this August gathering has been saying. Don't lose heart. Rejection is a part of life. If you are here to be a filmmaker, the universe will conspire to make you a filmmaker, and don't be disheartened just because somebody has rejected your script or your film idea. You keep trying. If there is substance in your content, then conviction and convincing, etc., is not going to be difficult. It will just flow in the natural course of things. And सामने वाला जो परख रहा है, he's smart enough. Like you need a filmmaker or film producer, every film producer needs a good script. So just be there. Don't be disheartened.
Hi.
Hello sir. Hello.
Hello sir. Hello sir. My name is Iqbal. I'm a PR aspiring filmmaker. I'm confused कि किनसे सवाल करूँ. All are talented. However, after Bhool Bhulaiya success, there is a note that कि industry के most bankable film director Amit sir है. Like if you talk about Amit sir after बधाई हो, तो how do you take this appreciation sir? Most bankable director filmmaker.
Nothing. God is great and we are very happy. और एक ये लगता है कि जो मेहनत की है वो कामयाब हुई है, लेकिन ये कोई भी जो कामयाबी है वो यहाँ पर आप ऐसा नहीं सोचते कि परमानेंट है. उसके लिए आपको हार्डवर्क करना है, और हार्डवर्क के साथ साथ मुझे लगता है जो एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है, आपका लक भी आपको साथ देना चाहिए. कभी कभी हालात ऐसे हो जाते हैं और सारी चीज़ें मिलती हैं, एंड अगर ऊपर वाला मदद करता है तो ये कामयाबी मिलती है. दैट्स इट.
अमित सर, योर टेक.
यार मैं बस ये दुआ कर रहा हूँ कि बस मैदान चल जाए और ये जो तमगा आपने दिया है मुझे अभी, ये बरकरार रहे.
Nitesh sir के साथ भी after Dangal, there was written many newspaper, magazine, most bankable film director of in the industry. How do you take that appreciation, sir?
No, I feel very humbled, but like Anish sir said that I also know it's momentary. You know, it may not be there tomorrow. I think that is something which helps me remain grounded. So that's the way I take it.
Imtiaz sir, your view?
Sir, एक sir.
मेरे बाद बाकी लोग भी व्यूज दे देना, वरना वो सबसे उसको पूछना पड़ेगा. आई थिंक ओके, सबने जो कह दिया वो एब्सोल्युटली बहुत सही बात कही है. आप गांठ बांध लीजिए. मगर एक चीज़ मैं बोलूँगा अपने पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस से कि जो मेरी सबसे ज़्यादा रिजेक्टेड कहानियाँ रही हैं वही सबसे ज़्यादा बाद में बॉक्स ऑफिस पे चली हैं. This, I will not get into the example of it because it will sound like boasting, but this is 100% accurate. And several times, for years and years, things have been rejected. And some other things have just been accepted immediately and not been so successful. So it's a tricky slope out there, my friend, the other one.
Yes, actually, I was going to say I stand corrected. So I said don't lose heart because of rejection. Celebrate when you are rejected.
न्यूकमर्स के लिए इम्तियाज ने जो बात बोली है वो बहुत बड़ी है कि अगर आपकी कहानी रिजेक्ट हो रही है तो आप मन में बिना किसी को बोले ये भी समझ सकते हैं कि शायद इस आदमी को इतनी समझ नहीं है.
Okay, one last question. The time is up. One last question.
Hi, sir.
Komalji, hi. My question is to the panel, and my question is to the panel, and I think Mr. Sharma, Abhishek Sharma, has partly answered to my question, and it is that India is producing about 900 Bollywood films, and our box office collection is just about 1.5 billion. If we compare this to America or China, which of course has a larger number of screens, this is an August panel here. I think all the people from the best in India are sitting on the dais. I would like to ask them on what needs to be done that our box office collection goes high. My question number 2 is that there are stalwarts like Mahavirji and Netflix, Amazon, Jio, who have unending tunnels of money. Do you think there is space for more money to come in or more studios to come in to facilitate more filmmaking so that India's numbers go up in the near future?
Just before they start answering, 900 is not Bollywood films, 900 is all India films.
That's what I meant, 900 films,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 900 films with a box office of about 1.5
Sure,
billion.
sure. Directed to you all.
I think Komalji is best answer.
I think money is the least of the problem. As far as films is concerned, everybody wants to come in the industry. Everybody's uncle, aunt, everybody's son, daughter, everybody wants to come into the films. And finance has never been, it used to be a problem probably 30 or 40 years ago. With corporates coming in, finance is the least of the problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the least of the problem. And what was your second part of the question?
The second question was, what do you do to increase the box office collections of the country? Of all the films, Hindi, Bollywood.
Like people would like to believe that Karan Johar bought tickets and bribed the audience. If you all subscribe to that view, do that. There's precious little anybody can do except make good films, and I think that is the general success ratio. 15 to 20% films make money, about 10-15% break even, and balance 50-60% lose money. That's because this is the most speculative industry in the world. You cannot predict. Today you think that this idea will work, but by the time your film is ready, people's views have changed. It's a very difficult, it's not an easy industry to be in, and their job is absolutely daunting because they have to think 12 or 18 months in advance and also hope that nobody's thinking like them. Nobody's thinking the way they are thinking, nobody's writing the similar scenes. It is a hell of a job. Trust me, they are doing something which very few people can do and succeeding. So a round of applause for them.
Now, if I may just add, the question you asked already had the answer in it. When you said, when you compared to the other countries, you said, like, we all know that China has a larger box office number for Hollywood films than India. I think it's a direct function of the number of theaters and, so the outlets. So the answer to your question, perhaps, Komalji,
more screens, more theaters.
More screens. That would actually give more room for a lot more films that would make X to make 2X,
One last question, shall we take? One last question. Okay, the lady.
Good evening, everyone. This is Kiran Srivastav. I'm from Molecule. It's great to see all of you on one platform. My question is that while we're talking about new talent, it was coming across to me as an audience here that you're talking more of actors, more of fresh faces. Would you guys will be emphasizing more on new talent, mean writers, DOPs, upcoming directors, and will that same strategy be given to those new talent as well, and not just actors?
Of course. I think, sir, of course, the thing is that it is not just new talent by faces. Am I right, sir? It is not just face, it's the mind who makes the films also. So directors, music directors, editors, all parts of technical jobs. So it's that, it's important to have fresh directors also, to tell fresh stories. So yeah, in my mind, yeah, it is. That's what it is.
I mean, the paradigm has shifted, Komalji. Actually, like you just said, money is not the problem. See, the paradigm has shifted in demand supply. Today, there is more demand than supply of talent. We are literally, looking at who can write this.
Yes.
The DOPs, you just mentioned DOPs, sound designers, directors, like Amit said. Many a times, I'll tell you, without naming names, there was a big show which was mounted twice by an OTT, very big OTT platform, and it had to be rejected. They were not happy with what was being produced, what was getting out. So it's about harnessing talent so that we can tell those stories which are world class, even in terms of VFX studios, even in terms of everything. You need today to tell these many stories, all these kind of talents. And I think Mahavir ji and Gio, they are not talking only about fresh faces, but I think why you felt it is just like in a movie, we work hard, but actors take all the credit. So similarly, I think you had this, feeling that we were only talking about actors or stars. No, we are talking about, the whole, whole fresh talent. Yeah.
And plus, it cannot be denied that with so much content being made, so many films being made, stars are in the shortest supply. Thank you so much for being a lovely audience, and thank you, our esteemed panelists. You all have been wonderful. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
one last thing. मैं एक सीक्रेट आप लोगों से शेयर करना चाहूँगा खाली कि यहाँ मेरे जितने दोस्त लोग बैठे हैं, जो सीनियर्स बैठे हैं, वो उनका बड़प्पन है कि वो सब कह रहे हैं ये आइडिया मेरा है, पर मैं आज सच बताना चाहूँगा कि आइडिया आप सब लोगों का है. मैं जब भी आप लोगों से मिला हूँ, आप लोगों से मैंने ये आप लोगों के दिल में, दिमाग में, मन में इस आइडिया को महसूस किया और मुझे लगा ये सब आप लोगों के दिमाग में ये बात चल रही है और मैंने सिर्फ उसको थोड़ा सा स्ट्रक्चर देने का काम किया. तो दिस आइडिया बिलोंग्स टू ईच वन ऑफ यू, ऑल ऑफ यू हु आर सिटिंग हियर. दैट इज द ट्रूथ, नंबर वन. Number two, I wanted to thank some of the people. First of all, again, all the friends who are sitting here for believing in this, coming forward for this. Really, thank you very much. Secondly, Komal sir, Kamal hai aapne. Thank you very much for coming and moderating this session. Thank you, really.
Anytime for such an enterprise.
I wanted to thank ज्योति देश पांडे. वो आज हमारे बीच नहीं आ पाए, उनकी तबीयत ठीक नहीं है, but believing in this vision and standing like a rock with us for this vision. So I wanted to thank her and the team. Gio, Shobha ji यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, Shobha Sant. Big hand for Shobha ji, please. Priyanka Chaudhary and entire team of Gio who are having belief in this faith in this vision and standing with us like a rock. And then lovely audience, friends from media who are sitting, and the friends who are working with me. I wanted to thank everyone. It's really a great idea. और आप लोग सबके दिल में इतने कमाल के इंटेंशंस हैं कि मुझे पूरा फेथ है कि जब हम 5 साल बाद पीछे मुड़ के देखेंगे तो हमें लगेगा हमने इंडस्ट्री को बहुत सारे टैलेंट्स दिए और वो सबके लिए विन विन है. हम चाहते हैं कि सबको प्लेटफॉर्म मिले, एट द सेम टाइम इंडस्ट्री के लिए भी बहुत बढ़िया है. तो ये होने वाला है. आप सबका फेथ है हमारे अंदर और कमाल की आप लोगों की गुडनेस ने ये आइडिया को इतनी स्ट्रेंथन किया है. आई वांटेड टू थैंक ऑल ऑफ यू. थैंक यू.
और जो अभिषेक शर्मा बता रहे थे कि एग्जिस्टेंशियल क्राइसिस है, इत्तेफाक देखिए महावीर जैन और जियो स्टूडियोज जैसे लोग हैं तो डेफिनेटली जियो की फिलॉसफी जियो और जीने दो, मरने नहीं देंगे. थैंक यू. थैंक यू.
And wanted to thank my brother and bhabhi who are my inspiration in life. They are here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks to everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
One group picture, please. Can you all step ahead and come close? Thank you for presenting a treasure of great learnings, stupendous takeaways, and memories that will stay with us for a very long time to come. Audience members requested to remain seated. We will begin the last session of the last day of this 2-day conference. The valedictory is Making of Brahmastra, a case study. In conversation, Mr. Ayan Mukherjee and Mr. Karan Johar. Please stay back to welcome both the filmmakers and enjoy the last session of the day, with which we will conclude this 2-day conference, FICCI Frames Fast Track 2022. As you can see, we are just setting up the stage. It will take us a couple of moments. Thank you for your cooperation. All right, all those outside, if at all you can hear me, requested to proceed inside the ballroom 1 and 2. We are about to begin the last session of the day, which of course will be the valedictory of this 2-day conference, FICCI Frames Fast Track 2022. All those inside, standing, I can yet see a few vacant seats. Please occupy them. And I hope your cell phones are on the silent. As mentioned earlier, this will be a case study making of Brahmastra. In conversation, filmmakers Mr. Ayan Mukherjee and Mr. Karan Johar with Mr. Komal Natha, trade analyst. He was with us in the earlier session as well. Please welcome filmmakers Mr. Karan Johar and Mr. Ayan Mukherjee. With a resounding of claps, I present to you Mr. Karan Johar. Joining in, Mr. Komal Natha. He will be moderating this one. He was with us in the earlier session as well. Welcome again, Mr. Natha. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the valedictory session of FICCI Frames Fast Track 2022, Making of Brahmastra, a case study. All yours. So we have just learned that Mr. Ayan Mukherjee is on way. He should be joining us any minute. In the meanwhile, let us begin the conversation. Over to you, Mr. Natha.
Till Ayan reaches, hello, people. Till Ayan reaches, I'll settle my scores with Karan. Karan, since I gave a positive review, the world accused me of having taken a bribe from you. You know, now that the film has done well, I'm waiting for the check.
That's a great looking suit, Komal. Who gave it to you?
I can show you when it was tailored, much before the release of Brahmastra. It's a different thing that I've worn it for the first time today.
Well, Komal, I know, of course, all this is in jest, and I hope people take it in the right way. There was obviously no money exchanged. But it was really quite amusing. I mean, not amusing, it was also hurtful at that time, where so many people were writing all kinds of things. But justifiably some, and some perhaps not. But the thing is, many people said we were fudging the numbers, and I was like, we weren't even giving out the box office numbers. So how are you be fudging anything? It was quite, and that's something that now in these days of data tracking, and Komal will know that better than anyone else, that what the numbers are obvious for everyone to see. You get them from the 3 multiplex chains and the other chains. There's so much data available. Everybody knows the numbers of a film these days. So it's almost impossible to fudge them and leave alone maneuver or manipulate them.
You know, I was on a channel, Karan, I'm sure you mustn't have seen it because you had plenty of other things to do besides counting the cash which was being collected at the box office. So someone asked me on a television channel, someone asked me post Brahmastra, we also hear that Karan has been distributing tickets. I said, okay, I'll give you an example. I'll send you 50 tickets of Brahmastra and I'll tell you it is for this show. I guarantee after 2 hours you'll say, Komal, I have distributed some 12, 15, 20 tickets, 30 tickets मैं वापस भेजता हूँ. And you're talking of 1 lakh or 2 lakh tickets. Do you know the infrastructure required to distribute those tickets? That will cost more than the tickets. So I don't think Karan is so foolish in commercial terms and in financial matters that he would buy the tickets of his own film and then put an infrastructure together to distribute those tickets, get people. I mean, whom do you distribute so many tickets to? So I said, why can't we just accept that people are going to watch the film, and why elude reasons for its success?
Thank you.
Can we begin?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Karan, now that the film has released, done well, the numbers have come in, is it a bigger relief to you now than it was when the film got completed?
Well, at first, I think I was just relieved that the film was finally releasing. It's been a journey, and Ayan will, of course, share that with you when he comes in. Actually, his film released, his last film before this released June 2013.
Wow.
And I remember after the film released and was a success, he took a long trip and he went, in fact, to the mountains. And he came back, and the germ of Brahmastra was in a sense born then. When he came back and he said he wants to make this fantasy spectacle based in Indian mythology and also a fantasy film, which is his most favorite genre of film. And from then onwards, we've been hearing about the story of Brahmastra. Finally, we went on the sets we were prepping for it from 2015 and we started shooting for it 2017. So it's been a really long journey. So when the film finally released on the 9th of September 2022, I felt it was an entire decade that had taken a full circle and finally come into cinema hall. So for us, it was like much more a labor of love and a product of passion than just a commercial outing. For us, it was so much more than anything that, and we're very grateful for the box office, we're very grateful for the love, we're grateful for the feedback, we know the strengths, we know the weaknesses, we've studied it all, but more than anything else, we're grateful that there were a strong bunch of people who really held through these 7 years. There are literally some people who have been from day one of Brahmastra and all 7 years have done nothing but Brahmastra, of course led by Ayan.
Wow, and I think the passion is visible in every frame, in every single scene, in every single shot, because you have tried to create a whole new universe, you know, Karan. So when Ayan narrated the germ of the idea to you, were you daunted by the bigness, or at that time it didn't register that it was a whole new world that he's creating, a whole new universe that he was creating?
I mean, I had never made a film. We hadn't even ventured into Bahubali as presenters at that time. So, it was something that I couldn't imagine. I wasn't being able to fathom. I kept thinking we were completely stretching ourselves and we were like, incapable of pulling off this the film that he had in his mind. And actually, till I kept seeing the dailies of the film, I didn't even realize that this is the extent of what Ayan Mukherjee had in his mind, because his mind was like, it was like the imagination of some kind of a very, very imaginative person. And I was like, I didn't even imagine the way he had the powers, the astras, the entire astraverse, everything that he had planned, and it was all in his head. And I was like, how are you going to put pen to paper and be able to kind of create this trilogy? Because Brahmastra is not just about part 1 Shiv, it's about part 2 Shiva, part 2 Dev, and then part 3, which we can't reveal right now. There's so much that we had to put into part 1 for it to all add up, and then make 2 and 3 into pleasurable experiences. Therefore, there were so many screenplay hurdles to surmount, so many story aspects to kind of put out in film 1. It was really impossible when he mentioned it to me that all this was going to happen. Like, I don't even know. Today the film is released and it's with the audiences now, but I'm still a bit overwhelmed by the entire journey.
I'm sure. I'm not a bit surprised. You know, I remember meeting Ayan in your building. Yeah, right. I had come to meet you. After that, I was leaving and he was in the compound and he said, you know, Komal, I'm thinking of making this kind of a film. I wish I could narrate the subject to you, but I don't know. I would like to. So in my eagerness to hear the script, I said, but Karan always gives me an idea of what he's making. So why will Karan stop you? Okay, then let me talk to him. And then he disappeared.
Well,
he got busy in the making of Brahmastra,
yeah,
I think.
He took very long and got busy and went through a lot. Like I always say, it's very admirable because after Jawani Diwani, it was very easy for him to make another fast commercial film, even monetarily for him. I mean, in every which way, in terms of, you know, churning out more films, making the money himself, probably going up, moving stratas for himself as a filmmaker. He didn't do any of that. He just sat, like where he is at 7 years ago economically is where he's at today. The needle hasn't moved, but the ambition, the passion, I think surmounts all of that. And it makes you feel like when we tell stories or we are content creators, it's really not eventual. Of course, we're here for the business and the commercial aspect, but the passion to me is far more important than anything else. And he has more passion than I've seen in anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. This is where passion versus profit, when we talk of, his passion is what has driven the film rather than his vision about the profitability or the expenditure, etc.
Having said that, we're very, very grateful to Disney because their money muscle was very required for them to be on the same page with us in terms of to see the Disney you know, got into the film from the very beginning, and we've had a lot of strength, and I would say their infrastructure was in Brahmastra. As a result of that is why we could take those leaps that we did in terms of visual effects, in terms of just doing things that we had never done before in Indian cinema. So yeah, so I'm very grateful to Disney actually and the entire team who's really stood with us right through this journey.
You know, Karan, you have worked with Ayan, so it was easy for you to see where he was coming from, and probably you immediately got excited like him and said, yes, let's make this film. How difficult was it convincing Disney, or how many rounds of discussions you all had, or what were the points you had to stress upon so that you got they came on board with you?
It was the way Ayan pitched that narration with the team at Disney. It was really the way he sat on the floor for 2.5 hours and just narrated the vision to the entire corporate structure of Disney at that time. And I don't think they had experienced something like that. With his laptop open, and Ayan's narrations are always very theatrical. You know, he's very, very theatrical in his narration. So it was the way he pitched it. I think everyone was sold at his vision in that moment, because I think Ayan, and I have to say it's one of his strengths, and I can't wait for him to get here because I feel like I'm some, some proxy for Ayan Mukherjee. I really
it can't be a proxy. You're the producer of the film. So I think
but more than anything else, it's really his baby. And I feel like Ayan can sell, he can sell ice cream to an Eskimo. Yeah, he has that kind of, I think he has that ability in his very humble, passionate self. I think he can really manage to move mountains. So I think that's what he did. At that point of time, it was amazing how they just came on board for such a massive, massive mammoth film. And they also said this is not just about part one, it's about a trilogy.
Okay, they understood that.
Yes, they understood that obviously that the money is going into a 3-film universe. And also it's not just about the 3 films. The Astraverse is about many, many, many other films as well. Within the film, we've already shown you there's of course the Nag Astra, there's Vanar Astra, Jal Astra. There are so many. Each Astra can be a massive movie and a franchise in itself. So can you imagine what this one film can really do if we hit all the right, make the right moves in the future? It's actually really a creation of a marvelous universe.
Exactly. So like Marvel in Hollywood. But tell me, I didn't understand the if. It's a very tiny word, but you said if. Why that if?
If we get it, because one can never talk about creativity with assurance. Right now we can only say that the desire is to really push the envelope, the boundaries with each film. With the second film, the learnings we have from the audience reaction of part 1 will all go into part 2 and then part 3 and then the Astraverse. All these learnings are very critical. We were doing something that was completely novel and new. And when we got the feedback, the good and the bad, we took it all with a lot of strength and positivity, only because we knew that the process of learning in a film like this is never ending. It's endless. And we learned so much from the audience. We read every review. We read all the audience feedback on social media from audiences directly. So Ayan is somebody who's very academic, and he's heard each and every person out. And now there are so many fan theories. It's amazing how some very clever things are being written by fans themselves. And I'm like, I think that's what even Disney and the Marvel Universe have done. They've actually incorporated screenplay points within their narrative from fans directly, because fans get attached to the narrative, have their own stories. There's so many questions about Alia's character Isha, about her presence in 2. I think he's here. Ayan Mukherjee, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
I'm very sorry. Not at all. Okay, thank God. I'll give you the scolding later. Okay.
No, guys, I don't think he needs to apologize. He had to live up to his film. If the film could be delayed by so many years, so many minutes is just nothing actually. So Ayan, it's all perfectly fine.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you, Ayan. I can't ask you how are you. You're on top of the world, we see that. So it must have taken time to land on Earth.
No such thing, sir. No such thing.
Yeah, Karan, we had already started the session, Ayan.
I think I spoke a fair amount without Ayan. I think you should pass all the questions from I was taking.
Ayan, we were just asking Karan how easy or how difficult it was to convince Disney, who came on board and funded the entire project. And in one sentence, he said, you sat on the floor and floored them.
Yeah, literally. Well, that's what he did. I said it was a 2.5 hour, 3 hour discourse that followed in a narration, and they bought into the vision of not just one but all the 3 films, and the vision that Ayan had for the Astraverse and Brahmastra, the series.
Tell me, were you apprehensive when you took this idea to Karan and then to Disney? Because you were attempting something which nobody in India had attempted.
Yeah, you know my answer. Can I ask a question before I answer? How many of you have seen Brahmastra? Oh, everybody. Wow, a lot of people have already seen it. Okay,
Wow.
that's awesome. Okay. So Komal sir, to answer your question, I should have been perhaps more nervous, more apprehensive. This should have been my answer. But I think the overall what we were trying to create was so challenging, and I was also so drunk and inspired by the vision that I think some of these moments, the first time I met Karan with the story and he said, yes, let's move ahead with it. When we went and met the Disney team, I don't particularly remember being like more nervous or anything. You know, every single day on this journey has just been a bit like that. You know, every day has kind of been such a big obstacle that, yeah, this was one other obstacle. And eventually, like, you know, I guess the truth is that it wasn't as simple as Karan or even Disney saying yes in just one go. There were just obstacles and obstacles on a daily basis for years. You know, I feel even as we've put the film out, even now we have obstacles that we have to overcome to truly build part 2 and part 3 and the Astraverse. So that became second nature to this entire process.
You know, Karan has always been telling me, and he has been saying this in his interviews also, this film, a lot of sweat, blood, and tears have gone. And the emphasis, more often than not, is on tears. All these 3 come in this order. I would like to know from Ayan and Karan, sweat, blood, one understands. Tears, what is this tears story?
I mean, I don't know a single person besides Ranbir, and happy birthday Ranbir, besides Ranbir, who on the major A team of the film that stood, that perhaps hasn't shed a few tears right through, sometimes out of exhaustion, sometimes out of stress, sometimes out of inability in the moment to combat the situation, sometimes out of just fatigue. I mean, you know, it's like, there is so many reasons. I know Ayan has been emotionally vulnerable at so many junctures. I've seen it because to him I've always been like a protective parent. So every time I see him go through those beats, it's very difficult to see a team really weather those storms. And I know at this point the film is out and it all seems beautiful and rosy and we're all so grateful. But really, Komal, this wasn't just, it was really like climbing a cinematic Mount Everest, and right now it's like Ayan is standing on top of that mountain and really, you know, flying the Indian flag with aplomb.
I'm sure
like,
it is.
But
Ayan, one incident where you broke down.
Oh, one incident where I broke down.
Ayan.
Komal sir, so dramatic. Yeah. What do I say?
I've seen you break down, Ayan.
No, so I'll tell you one of the big challenges we had on the film. So we...
You can't skirt the question, huh? You say whatever you want to say, but you will have to give that incident where you broke down.
So, okay, my interpretation of this word broke down. I'm trying to find an incident that one should latch on to. So, what had happened on the film is that when we entered this journey, Hamari industry mein we work a certain way where we think script has happened, you're going to start making the film in 6 months, 7 months. This is par for the course. It's what you expect. So on Brahmastra, we realized early on that this was not going to be possible. I needed to give 2, maybe 3 years just figuring out how to make this film and this very prolonged pre-production period. So I had done my best, you know, and I had taken on 2 years. We'd done a lot of research. We'd done a lot of visual effects planning. And I really thought that I was like some young Steven Spielberg, that I've cracked this and we're going to like fly from here. We shot our first schedule, which we started by shooting our climax, which was a very interesting thing that we did. We started the film with the climax. And I remember right after we shot that schedule, after all that pre-production, our VFX budget basically tripled. right after we'd shot it. And now the film had begun.
So was that lack of planning or it just...
Sir, I don't think it was lack of planning.
The nature of the beast,
I think what it was that for all the partners involved, including the VFX teams at that point of time, it was just very new what we were attempting for Indian film.
So y'all couldn't have planned it?
They didn't know what they would run into. You know, and which is why when a lot of people are now setting off on big VFX, visual effects films, I see that that is something that could happen. You know, that they don't know what to expect. They don't know what's going to, there's no way to plan for it.
Sure.
So, in fact, I remember I called the head of Disney at that time, which was Mr. Uday Shankar, and Karan and all, I don't know if Karan remembers, we all flew down to London and we had already shot a big portion of the film and we didn't know if we would now have, how would we raise the rest of the funds to finish it. So those were very challenging days. You know, our little group that was trying to make the film, we also went through a lot of internal stress, but then we came back stronger, we took it on, we took on the budget again, and we kept moving forward. And I feel like stuff like this happened on Brahmastra every 2-3 months, basically.
Karan, did you cry?
Karan is a pro, yeah, now. Karan is...
but Karan is also very emotional, I know that.
But I'll tell you this, I've released so many films, Komal, and it's just been... this particular film, I think, really affected me. So I even remember telling somebody, I said, you know, I'm very open to criticism. I love to hear what is wrong with the film. I'm academic about it. But just for 2-3 days, if you didn't like it, don't tell me. I said, just don't tell me. I'm too fragile and vulnerable. And I don't want to express it because I meant to be the senior leader of this pack. So if I show myself, and I remember we had a fan screening. It was on Thursday night, on the 8th night, and we had a fan screening. And the media watched it as well. And there was a couple of messages that were so wonderful to read, and a chat we had with you also that was very heartening. And then there were some messages that came in that were completely extreme, and I just felt like my blood pressure had dropped. You know, I just felt like, oh my God, what if we've gone completely wrong? And this is something I couldn't even share with Ayan or the team. It was just stress, because it was like stress as a parent to the film, you know, like I'm just stressed for all these kids who've given their life for the film. That night I didn't sleep a wink. I literally didn't sleep a wink. It wasn't that I was crying. It's just that I could feel like this is really a big deal. It is a new universe and there is going to be extreme reactions. But then the film, just like the process, really fought at the box office. It's really quite heartening to see how the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then the Monday may have lessened, then again it was back up on Wednesday, Thursday, then went up on Friday. The second Friday was higher than the Thursday, which is very rare. Then the weekend went up again. Then we had cinema day. Then it's just like literally the film was fighting, the audience was rooting. It was like I felt like just the journey, the eventuality was the same. The result was the same.
You know, Ayan, since you are so open to criticism like Karan, and you like to absorb what people are saying, have you tried to analyze how come for this film there was so much of negative reviews? Ultimately the box office counts, but you know, in those initial days, reviews do matter.
Sir, I'll be honest, I have not yet absorbed all the negative reviews. So when you say, oh, there was so many negative reviews, my feeling is that it was 50-50. You know, there was not, it's not like we got, like you gave us a very nice review, and there was a lot of support. And my approach to it has been,
I gave you positive reviews because Karan sent me promised me a check.
You know, you'll say these things are a joke and I'll be trolled for the remaining
It's a joke! It's a joke!
And I'm like, please don't troll me about this now. I'm done with receiving trolls for various other things.
Sorry.
So my approach, sir, has been that I am waiting still for a few more weeks to go and for Brahmastra to really completely settle down. It was such a new beast in the jungle, such a new kind of film that, you know, oftentimes when you go to watch a film for the first time, as much as you are commenting on what's in the film, you're also commenting on what is not in the film, what you imagine to be in the film, what the film is missing, instead of just accepting it for what it is. So in general, my attitude is I am very open to criticism. I have heard stuff, you know, that the dialogues didn't really work as well. People weren't 100% convinced by the love story, this, that. So I'm hearing it, But I'm also waiting for enough time for the film to truly settle, to release on streaming, release on satellite, and then to really make sense of all my learning from what people have said, because I don't want to learn the wrong lessons. You know, if I take, like, very honestly, there's a lot of people writing about film, and I'm happy to hear about it, but I don't know if they have a pulse on what is truly working and not working on a film. And I think you can go very wrong when you start over listening to everything as well. So I'm trying to make sure that the right feedback reaches me so I can learn from that for the future.
Is it possible, I'm just asking you and Karan both, Karan you can also answer, is it possible that you all concentrated very heavily on the visual effects because it was something unique? Indian cinema hadn't seen this kind of visual effects. So on purpose, intentionally, you all concentrated less on the script part and more on the visual appeal part?
So I think maybe it's possible that some of that happened just naturally.
Yes, that's what I mean.
It is possible, but truth be told, we worked very hard on the story and the script as well. And we were constantly working on actually improving the film right till the end. There were sequences that we had in the film which we didn't feel happy with, and we reshot a couple of, like, not VFX sequences, but story sequences. No, sir, I think we put our best foot forward on part one. I realized that there are a few departments in which people feel we could have done better, and we will do better.
Karan, you'd like to add?
Also, as I said, people were looking, and much of the, whenever the criticism came, and I think it was looking at it as just a feature film, Brahmastra. There are 3 films. So a lot of, like, the bits and pieces of this film that needed to be there, that all actually pay rich dividends in part 2. So, and part 3. So there had to be backstories. There had to be, the love story therefore had to be speedened. We were relying on chemistry. So in fact, there's a large section that believes, oh, the love story shouldn't have been there. But love stories right at the end of the film, you realize that love is the biggest Brahmastra to have.
What Amitabh says.
Yeah, it's right what Mr. Bachchan says. So there was so much of story, the backstory, everything had to be put in part 1. In any universe, the first film has a lot of putting in stuff for you to then cash in on that story-wise. I'm not saying that people are right or wrong in their assessment, but I feel that they were not looking at it holistically. They were looking at it very, very, very individualistically as just one film. And that's why all the learnings that he said he will of course, we will absorb and learn, because we are, I think, aware enough to understand that it's important to hear praise and criticism in equal measure. But there is a lot that was actually in the film because of the other 2 films. And that is something I don't think lots of people were kind of accounting for.
It's good you brought up this topic. So, how is it that you did not educate the public beforehand? Don't you think, on hindsight, don't you think you all should have actually put this out right before the release, that view it as part of a trilogy?
We did. We put it, but how much, nobody ever, it's always been said, it's a trilogy, there are 3 parts, we've said it time and again, we've said it everywhere. But everyone chooses to, listen to what they want to. And there was a large section that was just stuck on why we've used the term love story in a song called Kesariya. So I was like, if that is what is really making them all getting all wound up about, then I'm not sure how much of the real intricate elements of the film they're going to look at. And maybe they'll just take it as it comes.
Karan, this one is for you. Ayan is the director, but you're the producer. You know, there are so many figures floating. I understand, and which is what I put out in the review also, whether it's 400 crore or 410 crore or 390 crore, the cost of the film. It cannot be expected that the entire cost is attributable to part 1. Because you'll have built assets, you'll have done a lot of spade work for part 2 and 3. Even the income tax office would allow a part of the cost to be amortized and transferred to parts 2 and 3. So to expect that the entire cost should be recovered for the film to be called a hit would be foolhardiness, But tell me, broad figures, what were y'all looking at when the film came out in front of the public, and how much would you attribute to parts 2 and 3?
Firstly, the budget was never made for one part.
Exactly.
The budget is made for 3 parts. Brahmastra is 3 films, not one film. It's part 1, part 2 and part 3. So the budget is not, it's not been broken down into film 1, film 2, film 3. It's for the entire trilogy. Secondly, we were just looking for the initial acceptance of this universe, which happened to us on day one. We realized that we were home with the acceptance. A film to open to in Hindi to open and other languages to cross the 35 crore mark
without a holiday and without a franchise.
any holiday, that means that they had bought into the fact that this is a multiverse, a universe, and that's what we wanted, Komal, from this film. We were not looking at numbers and figures. We were looking, you accept this world because there's so much more, so much more to come. The moment this film gets acceptance, so whether it crosses 250, 300, all that is great, and we always are very, the numbers are very important. But to us, the most important is that we get to make part 2 and part 3. When we knew we were home with those important decisions for Brahmastra, that's it. That is the biggest success, that we're making part 2. You only make part 2 when part 1 is loved and accepted, and that's what's happening in this film, is that there is so much curiosity for the Dev and Amrita story, for the Isha track, for Shiva, for everything. Like, there's so much, like, we're inundated with questions where we go, and that is what I think Ayan created this universe for, to kind of get that dialogue and conversation and all that energy behind the film going.
True. Ayan, scripts you write for every film. This film was different because it was rich in visual effects, and visual effects of the kind Hindi audiences had never seen, Indian audiences had never seen. How was that journey of creating visual effects for the film? And how involved were you with the studio which was creating it, with the studios which were creating it?
Sir, you know, I want to give like 3-4 answers to what you've asked me.
Definitely.
So the one thing is that working in India, especially I believe, and trying to do anything of super high quality in any department, for some reason, more so in India, I feel, one has to really be involved in every single department if you expect that quality. So I was very involved in VFX. Like, it was, and it wasn't looked at only as a technical outside department. It was, matlab, years were going just in working on the visual effects. That's one. Now the second thing, sir, is that in this visual effects word, VFX, you know, you kind of say it and you think it's one sort of technical term, that is one technical process that it represents. But actually, there are many stages in this visual effects process, and one big aspect of it is very connected with script writing and screenplay writing. Because, for example, in a moment where Shiva screams in the climax and this huge avatar of Shiva appears, fire avatar as we used to call it, that's not actually part of VFX, it's part of script writing. It's just visual script writing. And so, after we created the story of the film on paper, a long time went actually creating the visual script of the film. You know, and in a way writing the VFX of the film. So I put screenplay writing, story, and some of the VFX also into the same bracket of pre-production when we were devising the film. What I also wanted to add to that, sir, was that when we started off, with this concept of Brahmastra 1, and through it building this Astraverse concept, you mentioned earlier also that, you know, a lot of emphasis went on visual effects and, you know, maybe not enough on story. But the genre of the film was so new that when we began to just put this story together, this world of Astras that exists, now it still seems really simple. But because it was unlike any film that we had made before, and it was not based on any existing piece of literature, like how the Marvel universe in Hollywood is based on 20, 30, 40 years of Marvel comics already having been written. We were actually setting out to do something that was inspired by lots of things, but was completely original in that sense.
A blank white paper.
So, that effort to just articulate this world, that these Astras exist in this nominal world, these are the different kind of Astras. There was a lot of emphasis that went into writing that stuff, and sometimes I feel like I know how much effort that took. You know, and that was a big part of the writing effort on this film as well, and I feel it needs, we don't realize how much credit should be given to that aspect of it, you know?
Yes, yes. Ayan, again from you. You know, if this film hadn't worked, for Karan it would be losses, for Disney it would have been losses. What would it have meant to you, having given a decade of your life? And as Karan said before you reached here, he said economically he is where he was 10 years back, you know. So what would it have meant for you had it not worked?
So it would have come with a lot of hardship and heartbreak. But you know, I am aspiring with every year that's going by to be have a warrior artist mindset. You know, that's my goal to myself with every passing year, that I have to do the work really hard and not be just, you know, have an attitude where I don't want to say that, oh, my life would have been crashed and I would not. That's part of what we do here. You know, we do our best and we hope for the best, and then if it had not worked, I would have liked to believe that I would have picked myself up and tried to do something else. But what would have been really disappointing is that I truly believe we have a great opportunity for Indian film, Indian audiences, Indian entertainment, and for India with what we were doing with Brahmastra. The loss of that opportunity, I would probably have felt like, shit, I had a chance to really do something and I messed up that chance at some level. That's probably what would have been in my mind, because I really think with, you know, with us having got the Brahmastra storytelling in, what we can build with the Astraverse now can be something that's really incredible for India. And so, yeah, that's my answer.
Phenomenal. I mean, what grit and determination. Karan, of course, when you make such an expensive film, you can't always be thinking that it will work. Finally, it's chance. Finally, it's the public which will give it the thumbs up or reject it, you know. When those thoughts used to cross your mind, okay, what if it doesn't work? We are putting in so much in terms of money, in terms of efforts, in terms of time, you know. How would you cross those barriers and, you know, get yourself going again?
It's absolutely impossible, because I think it's simple. It's an English saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I think that everything that one ever does in the movies doesn't come with any guarantee. There's not a single movie that I have made where I have always felt that ye to blockbuster hone wali hai. I never feel that till eventually the universe decides and it happens. With Brahmastra, I'll tell you the honest truth was like, let's get the film ready. That was the stress. The stress of the result was really at that point secondary. Ayan was so stressed delivering the film. You know, with the final VFX and the post, the sound, the music, all departments coming together finally. Really the stress was more about the delivery of the film than the result. And then once it was delivered, then all the stress and anxiety. But by then you get to find out immediately. So it was all about like, when will Brahmastra make it to the cinemas? At one point it became like, does it even exist? You know, that because we've been talking about it for so long. And finally when it was out there, when the trailer was launched and, you know, Ayan did everything to make the release date. There was no delay when we announced the 9th of September. And, you know, and we combated COVID and lockdowns and everything, but still made it. And that to me was the biggest achievement. The fear of the box office was really secondary.
Ayan, very nice. Ayan, how did you keep the morale of your entire team high? Because this is unusual, you know, for a film to take. Of course, you were creating a universe, etc., etc. You must have told everything to everybody. But even COVID had to come right in between your film, you know. So those 2 years were unaccounted for. You wouldn't have even imagined that it's going to be delayed further for 2 years.
You know, sir, even what you just asked Karan, like, how did he have, what did he feel, what did he go through in the making? I think there was a core team, because we knew what it is that we were creating and we were also seeing it happen. There was a core team, Karan, some of my assistants, couple of other producers who were, you know, running the show, Preetam Dada, Ranbir Alia, who were also, they could feel the potential over the years of what it is that we were making. You know, they had seen the climax and they could see that aisa kuch hai nahi Indian cinema mein. So I think it wasn't only me, it was the work that we were doing that kept a certain core team inspired to keep going on the film.
That core team was most important.
Oh, sir, that core team, without that core team, I call them in my mind the core Astraverse team. That team I would not have managed this. You would never manage making a film like this without a few key pillars who, contribute to help you making it. It's impossible. So there are like a few people who I feel have done and given as much as I have given to this film. They aren't in this room and you wouldn't know them, but like there are a few people who've really contributed a lot to get this film done.
But you're the captain of the ship, huh? When does part 2 begin now?
So we have a target. I think we have a release date target, to be honest, which is 3 years from now, somewhere around Diwali 2025.
Okay.
And for part 3, our target is 1 year after that, 2026. And I say Diwali 2025 and Christmas 2026. I say this with a disclaimer because we have said this on Brahmastra also that it's coming, and then I think we've had about 6 release dates.
I just hope you
on
know
Brahmastra
that you
1.
have given the release date for part 2 and 3 and very nicely blocked those dates and everything.
Diwali and Christmas.
Like, I think what he's saying in a very casual way is like, I'm a little shocked that you've given this information.
Karan, I've already said it in
Oh, you
interviews.
said it. Okay.
I've already said it.
Okay. I was getting a little stressed. I could feel my sweat beads coming out. And why is he giving all this information
But if
out?
I may ask, you said a 3-year gap for part 2 and only a 1-year gap for part 3. Is
Sir, I think our approach is that we'll now take on the filming of part 2 and part 3 jointly.
Oh.
And I think we should, and that would be a very good idea as well for audiences to get the film faster and enjoy it. So that's the vision. Again, now I think refining our production process and being able to move faster in this Astraverse building dream is very important to achieving that dream. We can't take another 7 years to make part 2. So how do we maintain that quality and do it in that time is what we're all, honestly, it's part of the reason that I thought when Brahmastra 1 releases, I would be free for a bit, or that I'd be off on a holiday. When Ye Jawani Hai Diwani released, was felt so light, but with Brahmastra 1 releasing, I haven't been able to feel light. I feel that urge to start working on part 2. How do I crack part 2 better? How do we improve it? How do we make it faster? So that's the vision. We have to put it into play and make all of this happen.
Wow. Karan, you're smiling.
I mean, it's so exhilarating and exciting. I'm smiling only because I think for us, and for me and Ayan actually, I go back to the moment, and I say this with a lot of love in my heart. When I remember in my bedroom of my earlier home, he narrated Wake Up, Sit to me. And to me, I always thought Ayan was bright, and he was narrating a really off-mainstream film. To the extent that Chintu ji, when we told him that it's a slice of life, he said, bread ke slices hote hain, life ke nahi. Tum kya? So he said, slice of life ka kya matlab hua? So he was like, I don't think he thought that Wake Up Sid would be anything. And I knew at that time when it was releasing that Ayan had a story to tell and had a vision as a filmmaker. And after that, then he made a completely different syntax film with Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. And today, he has made a completely different film with Brahmastra. Like if you wrote Wake Up Sid, Ye Jawani Hai Diwani and Brahmastra, and you didn't know details, you would never know that one filmmaker has made these films. I just feel like I'm just so glad. And I just feel like I'm so glad that I'm just a part of this boy's journey, because I believe that he has it in him to be a defining filmmaker of our times. And
he's proven that. He's proven that.
And I just feel so proud. I just feel so proud. When I see my name on a film like this, of course there is a lot of satisfaction. But when I see directed by Ayan Mukherjee, much more pride. Much more pride in my heart. Much more than it is even with my company name, because to me, I've been in the business 3 decades. I've been part of telling so many stories, but in each and every time, someone that I have helped bring into the business or give them a platform emerges victorious because of their groundbreaking storytelling or just their inherent talent, it makes me so happy. It makes me so joyous that I can be a bystander of Ayan Mukherjee's vision and journey.
Wow.
Let me also, you asked Karan a question. I also would like to share a little, 2-3 things about Karan that I feel maybe everybody knows, but like I think maybe they don't know as well. So there's 3 things, You also mentioned how emotional Karan is as a person. So I feel that, when he was talking about how nervous he was, or well, like how different Brahmastra was from another film when it released, etc. I feel that emotion that Karan feels on this film beyond the numbers and the achievement, also just for me on this film. So I feel it, like I feel that very strongly because he's very guided by emotion. The second thing about Karan is that beyond his own achievements and everything that he's doing and etc., he's actually a true film buff. And when he sees a piece of work that's going to become a part of pop culture or make a mark or a film that he believes is really good, Karan actually gets really excited. Like that really thrills him. I think it actually thrills him even though he's so successful and so wealthy and so this and so that. It actually thrills him the most. It gives him the greatest kick.
Gives him a kick. Yes.
Gives him a very, very big kick. And I've always noticed it. It's why, like, even when he sees a film like Bahubali succeed or something, he's excited, And the third thing, you asked Karan earlier, and I wanted to jump in then, where you said, how come you were not worried as a producer? And Karan was answering that question, and I was listening to his answer. And I know there's a logical part of his mind that's breaking stuff down. But I've always felt about Karan that the magic of Karan Johar is that he is just magically intuitive and instinctive. Magically. So there are certain projects, Karan works with all the directors who work with him in a completely different manner. There are certain projects, however high the stakes, that he just won't feel worried about. And then there's some small film that he might feel very worried about. And in fact, I think he just lives and works a lot on instinct. He might talk about it in the most articulate way because he's so articulate as a person. But his instinct is actually very, very strong. And I think that's really what, even when he was producing Brahmastra, somewhere I think instinctively he felt ki kuch acha hoga is film ke saath. We'll get there. I don't know how we'll get there, but we'll get there. And even when we now work, like supposing I have a poster or we have a song, Karan's first instinct I always hold a lot of value on. Not his fourth instinct. When you just show him something, his immediate response. I'm always like, Karan ko pehle kaise laga? And that's because he's such an instinctive, intuitive person.
I'm sure, and that's how he has his finger on the pulse of the people, and that is how he succeeds. One final question before I allow the gathering to ask you questions. I'm sure they have plenty of them. Was it difficult finalizing the people who would be the teams who would be looking after the visual effects? And how did you all freeze upon those teams?
So actually, you know this because you've been part of our whole, everything about our journey. Namit Malhotra, who's also one of the producers on Brahmastra,
yes,
and owns and runs Double Negative and Prime Focus. We've had our challenges as well internally, putting this vision together. For him to bring it in the cost that we had, this, that, lots of challenges. But he's definitely been one of the pillars in helping us achieve this, this kind of visual quality in the film. And there was a brief moment at the beginning where we went and assessed who that visual effects partner should have been for us. But to say it plainly, Namit was really a front runner in that game with everything that he had achieved internationally. And I think it was very, how do you say, it was the right thing that happened for the project, very important thing that happened for the project, that he came in directly into the destiny of Brahmastra. So he's definitely someone who's helped us achieve what we achieved with the film.
VFX Astra.
Yeah.
Thank you. You all both have been wonderful guests answered. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions because most of the people here have seen Brahmastra. So the house is open now. Sure. Just introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Yeah, myself Sumit from Arena Animation. A lot of our students have worked on this movie and some of them are here who want to work on part 2 and part 3. So guys, are you ready? Okay. Now the question is, India, specifically Double Negative and Prime Focus, has been working since the last decade for a lot of international movies. And you see Marvel, you see Avengers, you see Fast and the Furious, then you name the movie, it's there. But for a movie like Brahmastra, why did it take so much of time? Due to the budget constraint or the story, or due to, because technical experience is already there, we have proved it time and again. But what made it so lengthy process so that the part 2 and part 3 also would be taking a little more time? If you can please elaborate. Thank you.
No, so what you said, you actually had your answer in your question. Sumit, right? Yeah. It's the catch-22 of the budget versus the quality. You know, what they are achieving in Fast and Furious, if you hear their visual effects budget, it would probably exceed the overall budget of a film like Brahmastra. So that allows them to move at a very quick speed. And when we started with this venture, we wanted to figure out how to get that high quality, and we did extend our budget, but we couldn't extend it to what an Avengers or a Fast and Furious extends their budget to. So that catch required internally for Namit to be able to give us his teams when they got a little bit of a break from working on a very big Hollywood film. Right? He had to manipulate his resources to allow this to happen. So that's really the play and the catch-22. And to be honest, it is still something that I think we've gotten better at playing that game, but it's still a challenge that we will have to face even as we take on part 2 and part 3. And we want to bring in more refined visual effects and more interesting things in the visual effects of those films. बहुत challenging है ये VFX का game India में.
Hello, and my name is Amit Dev. I was the first general manager of Walt Disney in India in '94. Very, very old time.
Hello, sir.
And Walt Disney has to leave India because IPR was not withheld at that time. So they again came back after 8 years when the IPR India signed the protocol. Right. But my question is different. I had seen Namit from very beginning with the old ambassador car from Calcutta, his father, and hiring cameras. My question is that from now till 3 years or till 4.5 years, there would be many new application software and creative technologies that would arrive. Today Namit is doing things which he has not done at the time of, say, the earlier films. Even for his Oscar-winning film, he has used many prototypes which are not yet come into the commercial market. So that gives them the strength. So how would you like that kind of technology development to be brought between you and Karan and your team for Prime Focus and Double Negative to rise up further and using your film as probably an Oscar competition subject?
Sir, I'm very, very passionate now in exploring and growing in this technology space of visual effects. So definitely you're right. Even as we were making part 1, I already know that what we've achieved in part 1, proud as I am of it for India, because I know how much work it took and I see the quality on screen. At the same time, I was always walking into rooms where I could see, shit, I can do so much more. And I could see, foreign filmmakers and the big Hollywood studios being able to do much more than me. Every time I see a Marvel film now, I see shots and I understand how those shots have gotten created. And I know that we have not yet been able to get there. For budget, technology. So, sir, I'm in this zone. I'm going to keep trying to do my best to raise the level of technology and VFX. Hopefully one day, you'll feel that we are completely step in step with anything happening in the West.
Hello. Wow. Hello. First, I want to congratulate for Brahmastra's success. I'm KP Misra, a regional filmmaker. I just want to know as a filmmaker, how you motivate yourself despite having so much ups and downs throughout these years. And have you compromised any of your creativity ideas? What you planned? Have you compromised any of your creativity ideas throughout this year in process?
How do I motivate myself is a big question to answer. I mean, I think it's a very, like a very basic human question, because whatever we all do in our lives, I mean, I guess we get up every day and we try and do our best. And I really don't have a great answer for that, other than I'm just, you know, working hard and constantly trying to grow as a human being. And whatever I learn as a human being, I'm trying to bring it into my work. And I think I've become very comfortable now, even more now than I was earlier, in sacrificing a lot of my life for my work. You know, so I'm willing to pay the price to just do my best at work in my life. And the second part of your question was, are there compromises? Definitely. I think there is no life without compromise, no relationship without compromise. Even on Brahmastra, I cannot tell you, there are so many things when I hear some feedback also that my mind wants to say, Arey, but I had already thought of this, but then I couldn't do it this way. Or, you know, this is what we hoped to do and then we were not able to do. I'll tell you one interesting thing. In RRR, you know, the interval sequence where a lot of all the animals jump out, which was an incredible sequence. Now that sequence is done by Namit's company as well. And a few years ago, I had this incredible sequence with a bear in Brahmastra 1. And even now when I meet Namit, at that point of time, because of budget constraints, we had to cut the bear out of part 1, and it was a great sequence. And then on RRR, few years later, they managed to put in a sequence with a lot of animals. Even now when I meet Namit, I'm like, you made me compromise, you made me take out the bear. The second half would have been better if the bear was in it. So you of course compromise, and you still try and do your best.
You bear it and grin.
And I think in filmmaking, and any of the younger filmmakers or people in the process of developing and creating, we don't ever call it a compromise. We call it a creative adjustment. And it just makes it feel better.
And as I said, you grin and bear it. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, my name is Abhijit Murudkar and I'm from Arena Animation, Dadar. My question is like, many artists who wanted to be a good concept artist. So how do you select a concept artist for these projects? And what is the procedure?
I'm desperate for concept artists. Literally before you go, come up and speak to me, and all your people, I will connect you with people in our office. When we started making Brahmastra, I also didn't know, because I had not made a film like this before. One of the first things I learned is that we have to start with concept art, the visual script, because that's where everything takes root from, you know. The visual effects, everything starts with concept art. I need to find concept artists. In fact, we looked a lot, and we were looking the way that, like, you know, like a startup company would look. We would go online and write, who are the concept artists in India? Even for a company like Namit's in India, they struggle with finding good concept artists. So we are definitely on the lookout. And to build this big Astraverse idea and part 2 and part 3, we need a big group of concept artists to come in and work with us. So give me your number and I'll connect you, and give us all your friends' numbers as well.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello. So, good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm a filmmaking student, and first of all, congratulations to both of you on your success of your film, and I hope the second film also reaches even more heights. My question to you is, as you have pitched your film to multiple studios, even like Disney, and even to him also, so the initial part of your script which you had in your mind, it must have changed multiple times, and you have incorporated a very crucial element of this country, that is mythology, which can't be factually wrong, or like when you incorporate something, it can be interpreted wrong way. How cautious were you while writing those elements in your script, that it can be interpreted wrong way? How can it create an impact that can be a bit problematic for you later part of the time?
No, I hear you. Let's call it like Indian history, basically. I'll answer the... Okay. I'll answer the second part of your question about the touch of Indian history. So, I think that's one of the magic ingredients in Brahmastra. In the title, this Indian spirituality history, I think it's what has also attracted a lot of people in, along with the visual spectacle. You know, into, so I think it's a very important ingredient. And I've thought about it myself. I realized that early on, that, you know, if the bedrock of this fantasy needs to come from Indian history. I did not approach it in a very scholarly fashion. I approached it in a very emotional fashion in part 1. In fact, as I move on to part 2 and part 3, we might get a little more academic on, you know, on astras and reading a lot more about like Indian mythology. But on part 1, I have to be honest, I approached it in a very emotional manner. What was my connection with my faith, with God, stuff that was in me that I had forgotten, what were the kind of shlokas I had heard, what was my understanding of Hindu philosophy, and I just expressed it. And I went with the idea that if I do this in a pure way, with a pure heart, that somehow it will go through very naturally and people will not have any issues with it. And I think that's kind of what happened as we put the film out. We didn't really have any issues with anybody, you know, pointing out things that they were uncomfortable with. I think we had one issue with like Ranbir clicking the ghanti in our trailer and, you know, he was wearing shoes. But other than that, it went through really nicely. So I think that instinct of mine worked.
किसी की भावनाओं को ठेस नहीं पहुंचा. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of bhavnas around in India.
So, good evening, everyone. So my question to you, sir, is that in order to commit yourself into making a film like Brahmastra and, you know, creating the entire Astraverse, it's very important, like you said, to have, you know, the same long-term association with the same cast and crew. So how do you plan on, you know, retaining the same cast and crew for your further movies? Because like we have seen in the different universes, like with the Marvel universe, we have seen that it has worked for them, that they've hired the same director, the same cast over and over again. Like the Iron Man did not change from movie 1 to movie 3. So, but it did not, like DC did not do something similar. So it did not quite work out for them. So how do you plan on retaining the same star cast in the crew?
No, I'll answer your question partly because what's your name?
Akash.
Akash. Yeah. So my vision definitely is that as we move forward in this journey, we bring in more cast members into this world. But I think with what Ranbir and Alia and certain other people, Mauni Roy, Mr. Bachchan, what everybody did for us on part 1 is that they paid the biggest price, the blood price, to help us get this whole thing going. Basically, you know, I don't expect us to take that long to make any other project after this. So on the Brahmastra trilogy, of course, we continue with this cast and with Ranbir and Alia. But I'm hoping that as we venture out to work with anybody else now, it won't be that as challenging as it was for the actors on part 1 because they won't have to commit that much of their time to get it done.
There was this, yeah. Yes, lovely lady.
Hello,
Please
sir.
allow her. She's been wanting to ask a question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nandini. Firstly, congratulations. I saw the film, loved it. And just wanted to understand, like both of you being the creative masterminds that you guys are, I mean, in the process of making the film, did you find any creative disagreement between the two of you? Which...
To be honest, not at all, because this was completely born within Ayan. And every bit of the film, every element, every part of it, every aspect of Brahmastra was created within his and from his imagination and his visualization. So there was no way I could disagree, because how do you disagree with somebody's vision to this extent? I mean, you can give your input and you can, like, there were sequences when we saw, it was never a disagreement, it was feedback.
There was stuff Karan didn't like also. You know, we have this big Kali Puja sequence in the film now where Ranbir goes, there was another sequence there. And the second time you saw it, you were very harsh. You really, I don't know what I'm allowed. I am allowed to say that you really bitched about it. Am I allowed to use that word?
I didn't say bitch. I said the scene was terrible. And I said, I think you need to reshoot it. And there was actually, and we can say it now, but Kesaria was shot in another way. Kesaria, and already we got some flack for, like, he was on his way to save, you know, he was the artist, but they sang a song before that. But it was Kesaria, so hopefully it was
Which, by the way, we plan to release just for fun.
Yeah, we are. But there was actually Kesaria shot with Ranbir dancing like quite feverishly. And when we saw the song, I was like, Ayan, what the hell is going on? Like, why are they dancing? Like, he was literally doing a dance on Kesaria was a different track. Same tune, melody, but treated differently. So then Ayan himself realized that it had to be treated as a love song. So we reshot Kesaria and the scene prior to that, which now he made into the Kali Puja scene, which was before that in Isha's house. And that's why people talk about where did Isha come from, what is Isha's roots, but it was all there in that scene. But we had to compromise on her backstory for the pace of the film.
Creatively adjust.
Creative adjustment, yes.
Oh, we're very happy with the way it came out finally. Thank you.
How sweet,
One
thank
last
you.
question. One
Yeah.
last question.
Sir, to your right. So Karan and Ayan, both of you, you just said that you like your critics, maybe trawlers. So how much you owe the success of the movie to the boycotters and the trawlers? How
Oh,
much?
you owe to the trollers?
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Faceless, nameless people, dear sir, don't deserve any acknowledgement, and they certainly haven't contributed to the success of Brahmastra. In fact, if at all, it was our film was an answer to all their negativity with just the light that Brahmastra had.
I'm a reviewer myself, let me tell you, I'm a reviewer, not a troll. I'm a reviewer. I don't think any reviewer in the world has the power to change public opinion. It is you who make a film a hit or a flop. No reviewer, no trade analyst, no critic can change the public opinion. You read reviews and you forget them. If you agree with that, you say, हाँ उसने ये बोला था, उसने ये लिखा था. But perish the thought that we can change how people think. What is important is the word of mouth after the release.
And full respect, and on a last note, full respect from all of us as filmmakers to opinion. I mean, and it's come in the form of reviewers and genuine audience feedback, and as we say, saranko par. We'll take everything, because once you make a creative product, it is going to be open to all kinds of interpretation and opinion. And we are absolutely, completely fine and actually accepting of everything. But it's trollers and negativity that haven't even perhaps seen the film. They just started abusing the film for no reason. अरे but आपने picture देखी है, आपको कुछ पता है picture के बारे में, आपको कुछ नहीं पता, बस आपको बस बोला गया है कि आप जाके, like, you know, like somebody, one group has been formed and they just want to troll it for fun sometimes, you know, it's like,
and what is amazing is, suddenly, I never knew I was in such a glamorous profession or such a paying profession. Suddenly everybody has become a trade analyst. Suddenly everybody talks figures. You know, अरे ये तो loss करेगी तो. Ask them what is gross, what is net collection. Ask them what is the cost and what is the revenue. Ask them how much of the revenue comes to the distributor. I will leave this industry if they can answer those simple questions.
No, and that is absolutely true. And but Ayan and me, I think he gets that a little bit from me also. Is that we are academically obsessed with box office. You know, it's something that has been. I remember reading your magazine as a child. Like, not that I'm aging you, but because I'm also 50.
Because I was also a child.
Yeah,
we
you
read
were
it together.
In case you thought, but I'm sure when it was a family magazine. I remember Saturday sham ko aati thi, and my father used to bring it and tease me, and he's saying, "I'm not giving it to you." And I was like, I wanted Anika to read the percentage of opening and all. Like, I used to read it more than my own report cards.
Thank you. You all have been a lovely audience, and thank you, Karan. Thank you, Ayan. Thank you so much.
And thank you on behalf of everyone at FICCI and Leena and the entire team. We are very, very grateful for having got this opportunity. See you at the movies. Thank you.
Wishing all the parts of Brahmastra bountiful of successes, and a group picture for our memory's sake. If you can, three of you can come together and step ahead. Yes. Looking forward to the remaining parts of Brahmastra, and on that note, we close FICCI Frames Fast Track 2022. Goodbye, everybody. This is Manasi taking your leave. Have a lovely time ahead.